Chapter 1538. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger not good, quickly open the city gates, retreat. How powerful was Ning Yu's perception? Di Lingtian and the rest had just started to take action, and Ning Yu's acute perception discovered that something was amiss. Ning Yu couldn't help but shout when he saw Di Lingtian charging towards him first. Perfected devil saint sat on the city gate tower, and everything that happened below fell into his eyes. Di Lingtian was a peerless genius of the Divine Emperor Palace, the direct disciple of the Divine Emperor Palace's old ancestor, with a cultivation of pinnacle first-grade Earth Supreme. Putting aside the powerhouses behind Di Lingtian, even if it was Di Lingtian himself, Ning Yu might not be able to withstand it. Adding on the 7 to 8 martial artists behind Di Lingtian, Ning Yu definitely had no way of resisting. Creak. Seeing that Ning Yu was in danger, not only did immortal Ji Mo try his best to open the city gate, even Grandmaster Xingyun came forward to help. Everyone adds fuel to the fire. The city gate was quickly opened. With Ning Yu at the rear, over 41st grade Earth sovereigns frantically rushed into the giant shield city. Give me your life. However, just as Ning Yu was about to enter the city gates, Di Lingtian's iron-like fist smashed towards Ning Yu's head. Bang! At the critical moment, Ning Yu immediately gave up on entering Giant Shield City. Instead, he raised his hand and clashed head-on with Di Lingtian's fist. When the two fists collided, Ning Yu and Di Lingtian retreated several feet away at the same time. In this strike, both sides were evenly matched. Very good. I didn't expect your strength to improve again. Rubbing his swollen wrist, Di Lingtian eerily said, Fortunately, you have yet to reach the Earth Sovereign realm. Otherwise, I would have to pay a price to capture you alive. You want to capture me alive? Hearing Di Lingtian's words, Ning Yu was first stunned, then revealed a ruminating smile. I'm not afraid of you capturing me alive, but I'm afraid of you trying to kill me. Since you want to capture me alive, you should be prepared to be captured by me. Ning Yu quickly came up with a countermeasure. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu said, Are you sure you can capture me alive? I'm standing right here. You can come up and try. As he spoke, Ning Yu slowly closed his eyes. At the same time, his entire body became relaxed. Ning Yu's sudden action not only confused Di Lingtian, but it also confused Daoist Master Ji Mo and the others on the city walls of Giant Shield City. Ning Yu's but was already on fire, yet he still had the leisure to do so. He had to admit that he was indeed in a good mood. I'll go out and fetch Ning Yu back. After pacing back and forth on the city gate tower a few times, Reverend Chi Mo clenched his teeth, got up, and walked down the city gate tower. Daoist Chi Mo didn't believe that Di Lingtian was the only one who had brought a few 8th grade Earth sovereigns with him. In his view, there must be pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereigns hidden in the 4 armies. As long as they sensed a flaw in Ning Yu, they would immediately make a move. No need, Ning Yu hasn't sent out a distress signal, so none of us can make a move. Grandmaster Xingyun immediately stopped Reverend Chi Mo and said in a solemn voice, What you need to do now is to prepare to open the city gate and have 10-odd robust men guard the city gate. The moment the city gate is opened, have 10-odd robust men charge in and buy time for Ning Yu. Grandmaster Xingyun understood Ning Yu's character, and he knew that Ning Yu wouldn't fight a battle that he wasn't confident in. In fact, in that instant, Ning Yu had a way to enter Giant Shield City, but he did not do so. Thus, Grandmaster Xingyun felt that Ning Yu had a plan, so he couldn't disturb him right now. All right. Grandmaster Xingyun had interacted with Ning Yu for a long time, so Reverend Chi Mo could only follow Grandmaster Xingyun's instructions and gather 10-odd robust men to guard the city gate. You, go and test him. Di Lingtian wasn't a hothead. He kicked the butt of a 1st grade Earth Sovereign beside him and sent the 2nd grade Earth Sovereign towards Ning Yu. This 2nd grade Earth Sovereign was Di Lingtian's follower, and he usually helped Di Lingtian with matters that were inconvenient for him. Now that he had a chance to test Ning Yu, this 2nd grade Earth Sovereign was excited and worried at the same time. He was excited because if he succeeded, his status in Divine Emperor Palace would definitely rise in the future. But he was worried because Ning Yu was too powerful and could kill him with a single move. TSK. This 2nd grade Earth Sovereign approached Ning Yu, and the distance between him and Ning Yu was getting closer and closer. Ning Yu's tightly shut eyes didn't open, but there was a drowsy look on his face. I'd like to see how capable you are. The second-grade Earth Sovereign raised his right hand and fiercely smashed it towards Ning Yu's heart. Seeing that the second-grade Earth Sovereign's fist was about to hit Ning Yu's heart, Ning Yu still didn't move. Swish. In the eyes of the second-grade Earth Sovereign, Ning Yu's inaction was the most significant movement. At the critical moment, his fist slightly deviated and hit Ning Yu's chest. Bang! A huge force spread out and a figure was sent flying, slamming heavily into the wall. This change caused a huge uproar among the surrounding cultivators. It wasn't because Ning Yu was easily repelled, but because the cultivator who was repelled wasn't Ning Yu, but the second-grade Earth Sovereign. Good sapling. Ning Yu's expression was calm, but he couldn't help thanking the sapling in his heart. In that instant, the sapling suddenly helped Ning Yu, and a branch whipped the second-grade Earth Sovereign's fist. Fart. After spewing a mouthful of blood, the expression of the second-grade Earth Sovereign of the Emperor Palace turned for the better. Damn it. The second-grade Earth Sovereign wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth with an extremely ugly expression. He wanted to teach Ning Yu a lesson again, but his internal organs were about to fall apart, and he had lost the ability to continue attacking. As for why he was defeated by Ning Yu, even he was a little dumbfounded. Because before his fist could hit Ning Yu's chest, a branch swept out from Ning Yu's sleeve and whipped his fist. Originally, it wouldn't be a big deal to be whipped by a branch. But the branch that whipped the second-grade Earth Sovereign wasn't an ordinary item, it was a branch of the World Tree. Under its whipping, the second-grade Earth Sovereign could only curse and doubt. There was nothing else he could do. Di Lingtian, are you going to let these cannon fodders fight me? Don't you have the guts? Ning Yu stretched out his right hand and pointed at Di Lingtian. If you don't dare, I won't force you. We'll meet again. Stop. Seeing that Ning Yu was about to leave, Di Lingtian barked, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Let's have a showdown in front of the giant shield city. Di Lingtian flew a little further away from the city gate of Giant Shield City. At this moment, Di Lingtian finally understood. Ning Yu was pretending to be weak. Moreover, the matter of Ning Yu leaving the city was a complete scam to trick him, Meng Quan, and the others into a trap. If he hadn't guessed wrongly, there must be a large number of high-rank Earth Sovereigns around Ning Yu. Di Lingtian didn't dare to get close to the city gate. He wanted to fight with Ning Yu in front of so many people and defeat Ning Yu fair and square. Chapter 1539. Ancient Battlefield. What is that trash, Di Lingtian, doing? Seeing Di Lingtian leaving the city gate and hovering in the sky, Shido Venerable's face was extremely dark as he coldly said, "This is the best opportunity to capture Ning Yu. If we miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. If Di Lingtian acts rashly, he might fall into Ning Yu's trap." Meng Quan rolled his eyes at Shido Venerable and faintly said, "The space around Ning Yu is fluctuating greatly. If I've guessed correctly, there should be quite a few high-rank Earth Sovereigns around Ning Yu. So what if there are high-rank Earth Sovereigns?" Shido Venerable argued, "Di Lingtian is a peerless genius of the God Emperor Palace. If he goes all out, there's a high chance that he can capture Ning Yu." Idiot. Meng Quan couldn't be bothered to speak with Shido Venerable. Shido Venerable didn't know that Meng Quan was one of the two pillars. He led the 4 armies to attack the Giant Shield City, so there was no reason why the strongest person in the Giant Shield City, Fairy Yun Shi, wouldn't come. Since he didn't see Fairy Yun Shi, there was only one possibility. Fairy Yun Shi was hiding in the space around Ning Yu with the 100 Flowers fan. Using Ning Yu as bait, they wanted to lure them into attacking. If they dared to make a move, the consequences would be unimaginable. Di Lingtian luring Ning Yu out was undoubtedly the best choice. Fairy Yun Shi might be powerful, but she didn't dare to leave the Giant Shield City too far, fearing that they might set up an ambush. Which was also to say that this battle was completely a battle between Di Lingtian and Ning Yu. Would Di Lingtian lose? The answer was clearly no. No one thought that Di Lingtian would lose, including himself. "Ning Yu, do you dare to accept the challenge? Give me a straightforward answer." Di Lingtian was still trying to provoke Ning Yu. After all, in his view, Ningyu wouldn't dare to fight him. No problem. Ningyu pretended to be hesitant and bit his lips. After a while, he said, I will fight with you, but before we fight, we need to separate the battlefield. No one else is allowed to interfere. As you wish. Hearing Ningyu's words, Meng Shu's figure flashed, and he took a few steps forward as he said in a clear voice, this battle is a life and death battle between you and Di Lingtian. No one else is allowed to interfere as to who lives and who dies. Creak. Seeing Meng Quan rush out, the city gates of Giant Shield City suddenly opened, and a dozen or so martial artists rushed out in quick succession. Voila! Not long after, over a dozen martial artists landed beside Ningyu. These people included Grandmaster Xingyun, Master Ji Mo, and a dozen burly men. There's also Fairy Cloudstream and Bada. Meng Quan's gaze shifted slightly on the tower of Giant Shield City. He had a plan in mind. Since Grandmaster Xingyun and Master Ji Mo had left Giant Shield City, along with a dozen 8th grade Earth sovereigns, it meant that Giant Shield City was extremely empty. There's a high chance that Fairy Cloudstream is outside Giant Shield City. When she appears, I'll immediately get the spies in Giant Shield City to control Bada and force him to reveal the method to break the peerless killing array. A cold smile rose on the corner of Meng Quan's lips. His plan had succeeded, and he was only one step away. At this moment, Meng Quan felt a little fortunate. Fortunately, he had long left a trump card in Giant Shield City. Otherwise, he would have to pay a bloody price to break the peerless killing array with just the 4 armies that he had brought. Since it's a battle, I have to ensure fairness. With a thought, Meng Quan took out a scroll from his bosom and threw it into the air. Voila! The scroll exploded and several pillars of light enveloped Ningyu and Di Lingtian. Primordial Battlefield. The scroll that Meng Quan took out was created according to the prototype of the primordial battlefield. Once the scroll was broken, it would form a simulated primordial battlefield. In other words, when Ningyu and Di Lingtian fought in the simulated primordial battlefield, they wouldn't be affected by outsiders. Looking at the simulated primordial battlefield, an arc rose on the corner of Meng Quan's lips as he muttered, with Di Lingtian's strength, he'll only need 10 odd minutes to kill Ningyu. I don't believe that Fairy Cloudstream won't come out. The primordial battlefield was terrifying. Although it was only a simulated primordial battlefield, it was impossible for Master Ji Mo and the rest to break it with their strength. If they wanted to break the simulated primordial battlefield, Fairy Cloudstream would have to use the 100 Flowers fan. Meng Quan had already made up his mind. As long as Fairy Cloudstream appeared, he would find a way to contact the 2 spies in Giant Shield City and forcefully take control of Giant Shield City. Ningyu, I admit that you're very strong. However, no matter how strong you are, you're just a human venerable. Killing you is as easy as squashing an ant. Di Lingtian glared at Ningyu and said sinisterly, if you know what's good for you, kneel down and kowtow to me. I can spare your life and let you become my lackey. Aren't you a little too arrogant? Ningyu's lips curled into an arc as he looked at Di Lingtian with interest and said nonchalantly, ha ha ha. Di Lingtian threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Subsequently, his tone turned extremely cold as he said, I gave you face, but you don't want it. Since that's the case, I can only send you to hell. Swoosh. The voice had just sounded when Di Lingtian stomped his feet on the ground and charged towards Ningyu at high speed. Looking at Di Lingtian, who was charging towards him continuously, Ningyu's expression turned grim. On the surface, Ningyu and Di Lingtian looked down on each other, but they were actually fearful of each other. Although Di Lingtian was only a pinnacle first-grade Earth Sovereign, he was the strongest first-grade Earth Sovereign that Ningyu had seen since his reincarnation. Di Lingtian's fighting strength was comparable to a third-grade Earth Sovereign, or even a fourth-grade Earth Sovereign. Red Demonic Sword. Seeing that Di Lingtian was about to reach him, Ningyu flipped his wrist and instantly brought out the Red Demonic Sword. Facing Di Lingtian in the primordial battlefield, Ningyu did not dare to slack off in the slightest. If he was careless, he would be defeated or even killed by Di Lingtian. After all, Di Lingtian was a peerless genius amongst the younger generations of the God Emperor Palace, so he could not be underestimated. God Emperor Sword. Since Ningyu had brought out his flying sword, Di Lingtian did not remain idle. His sleeves fluttered and he instantly brought out his flying sword, the God Emperor sword. The God Emperor sword was golden in color with a golden emperor character engraved on it. The God Emperor sword was one of the top 3 magical treasures in the God Emperor Palace, so it wasn't any weaker than the red demonic sword. Ding, ding, ding. The 2 flying swords clashed and incessant clanging noises resounded. Whoosh, whoosh. A numbing sensation came from the webbing between his thumb and forefinger, causing Ningyu and Di Lingtian to retreat a few feet at the same time, to the boundary of the primordial battlefield. Both sides were evenly matched in this clash, with no one gaining any advantage. Chimph, you're truly capable. Holding on to the God Emperor sword, Di Lingtian's eyes gradually turned crimson. Chapter 1540. Ridicule. Scarlet Pupil. Seeing the change in Di Lingtian's eyes, a storm surged in Ningyu's heart. Through the exchange just now, Ningyu already knew Di Lingtian's prowess. But what Ningyu didn't expect was that Di Lingtian actually possessed an extremely domineering pupil like the Scarlet Pupil. The Scarlet Pupil was one of the thousands of pupils. But among the thousands of pupils, the Scarlet Pupil was enough to rank in the top 10. Di Lingtian could be evenly matched with him under the premise that he didn't use the Scarlet Pupil. One could imagine that once he used the Scarlet Pupil, he could even defeat him easily. No, no. Suddenly, Ningyu stared fixedly at Di Lingtian's eyes and muttered, his Scarlet Pupil just awakened, it has a fatal weakness. The Scarlet Pupil was indeed very powerful, but that was established after it was awakened. Di Lingtian's pupil had yet to completely turn scarlet, which also meant that Di Lingtian had only awakened the Scarlet Pupil initially and could not fully unleash the heaven-defying ability of the Scarlet Pupil. Swoosh. Di Lingtian didn't care about Ningyu's shock. His eyes glared and a cold gleam shot out instantly, charging towards Ningyu with an extremely terrifying speed. Block for me. Looking at the cold gleam that shot towards him unceasingly, Ningyu didn't dare to delay and hurriedly waved the red devil sword, slashing out a shocking sword gleam with a backhand. TSK, TSK. The sword gleam and the cold gleam shot out from the Scarlet Pupil collided. Sizzling sounds rang out and both dissipated between heaven and earth at the same time. Child's play. After blocking Di Lingtian's move, Ningyu raised his brows and stared at Di Lingtian as he said arrogantly, if you only have this bit of ability, then I'm sorry, I'll have to send you to heaven. Don't rush, the show has just begun. Regarding the matter of Ningyu blocking the cold gleam that shot out from his eyes, Di Lingtian was only slightly surprised. He was just testing his skills earlier and didn't use the Scarlet Pupil's ultimate power. Because as far as he was concerned, defeating Ningyu didn't require the use of his ultimate strength at all. Then let me have a taste of your strength. Ningyu let out a low growl and immediately dashed out. In fact, Ningyu already had a countermeasure in mind. The Scarlet Pupils that had yet to fully awaken had a fatal weakness. It could not be forcibly awakened. Once forcibly awakened, the lightest consequence would be blindness, and the most severe consequence would be death on the spot. What Ningyu wanted to do was very simple, and that was to let Di Lingtian's Scarlet Pupils completely awaken. Rumble. Great battles continued to break out. In the simulated ancient battlefield, Ningyu and Di Lingtian consecutively displayed their trump cards and the battle quickly reached its climax. Grandmaster Xingyun, what are the chances of Ningyu winning? Outside the simulated primordial battlefield, near Giant Shield City, Venerable Ji Mo watched the intense battle between the two solemnly with a worried look on his face. Ningyu's victory or defeat would determine the outcome of this battle. After all, Ningyu didn't just represent himself, he also represented Giant Shield City. Everyone on the watchtower of Giant Shield City shifted their gazes to the simulated ancient battlefield. At this moment, everyone's focus was surprisingly the same. Could Ningyu defeat Di Lingtian? It's not high. Grandmaster Xingyun took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Ningyu's cultivation is only at grade 9 human supreme. If his cultivation was the same as Di Lingtian's, I think he would have a 50% chance of winning, but now, Grandmaster Xingyun didn't continue, but Venerable Ji Mo understood very well. The implication of Master Xingyun's words was that Ningyu only had less than 10% chance of winning. Nothing must happen to Ningyu. Venerable Ji Mo's face turned cold as he turned to ask Grandmaster Zhao. Grandmaster Zhao, do you have a way to break open the ancient battlefield? If Ningyu was in danger, there was only one way to save him, and that was to break open the simulated ancient battlefield. Venerable Ji Mo had calculated it himself. With his strength, there was no way he could break open the simulated ancient battlefield. If he wanted to break open the simulated ancient battlefield, only Fairy Yun-Shi could do it with her 100 Flowers fan. It's very difficult. It requires a huge amount of materials and crystals. Grandmaster Zhao didn't answer Venerable Ji Mo immediately. Instead, he stared at the simulated ancient battlefield for a full 3 minutes before saying, most importantly, even if you prepare the materials and crystals, I only have a 10% chance of breaking it open. 10% it is then. Tell me what materials you need, and I'll get someone to prepare them, Venerable Ji Mo said hurriedly. A 10% chance was better than nothing. In any case, Ningyu couldn't die and had to come out of the ancient battlefield unscathed. However, Grandmaster Zhao's next sentence made Venerable Ji Mo have the urge to kill someone. I need 3 days to break open the ancient battlefield. When Grandmaster Zhao said that, Venerable Ji Mo stood rooted to the ground. 3 days to break open the ancient battlefield? Damn it, you're clearly messing with me. In 3 days, Ningyu would have died under Di Lingtian's powerful attack. Meng Quan, what exactly are you up to? On the other side of the ancient battlefield, on the side of the 4 armies. Shido Venerable stared at Ningyu and Di Lingtian in the battlefield, then yelled at Meng Quan, it's a waste of time to let Di Lingtian and Ningyu fight in the ancient battlefield. How can it be a waste of time? Meng Quan shrugged. Ningyu is the hope of Giant Shield City. If he's killed by Di Lingtian in front of so many people, it'll have a huge impact on Giant Shield City's morale. At that time, maybe the warriors in Giant Shield City will abandon the dark side and join the light side. It's not impossible. I hope so. Shido Venerable did not believe Meng Quan's nonsense. He had always believed in himself and absolute strength. If not for Meng Quan's strength, he, Nando Venerable, and the rest would have joined forces to chase Meng Quan away. Wait and see, I won't let you guys down. Di Lingtian was confident and did not have the slightest bit of worry. In his opinion, it was impossible for Ningyu to fight Di Lingtian, let alone kill him. Di Lingtian's strength had already reached the acme of perfection. Rumble. Meng Quan and Venerable Ji Mo had their own plans. However, the changes in the ancient battlefield seemed to favor Meng Quan. Ningyu wanted to fight Di Lingtian in close combat a few times, but Di Lingtian dealt with them perfectly. He wants to fight me in close combat and force me to awaken my scarlet eyes. Di Lingtian was indeed a peerless talent of Emperor God Palace. He only fought with Ningyu for a while, and he could tell Ningyu's true intention. Ha ha ha. After discovering Ningyu's secret, Di Lingtian did not kill Ningyu immediately. Instead, he threw his head back and laughed maniacally, and his eyes dimmed. After a few minutes of fighting, Di Lingtian had already figured out Ningyu's true strength. In Di Lingtian's heart, he had completely grasped Ningyu's fighting style. Chapter 1541. Easily defeated, you don't want to use the scarlet pupils anymore? Seeing the change in Di Lingtian's eyes, Ningyu slightly knitted his brows and felt a little puzzled. Although Di Lingtian was powerful, it would be extremely difficult to defeat him without using the scarlet pupils. It might even be an impossible task. Could it be that he still has some trump card? Even if Di Lingtian didn't use the scarlet pupils, Ningyu did not dare to slack off. If Di Lingtian had a trump card that was even more heaven-defying than the scarlet pupils, wouldn't he be in trouble? Ningyu, why don't you let me kill him? At this moment, the sapling in the interspatial ring started to contact Ningyu, wanting to help Ningyu deal with Di Lingtian. The sapling's strength had already reached the 5th grade Earth Sovereign realm. If he caught Di Lingtian by surprise, there was a high chance that he could kill Di Lingtian. The scarlet pupils are useful to me. Capture him alive, don't kill him. Ningyu said in a solemn voice. In the beginning, Ningyu had indeed wanted to kill Di Lingtian. But right now, Ningyu had changed his strategy and wanted to capture Di Lingtian alive. The scarlet pupils that had yet to awaken could be transferred. In fact, Ningyu already had a plan in his heart. If Di Lingtian kept using the scarlet pupils, Ningyu would definitely find a way to awaken the scarlet pupils and kill him. But Di Lingtian had retracted the scarlet pupils, which made Ningyu's thoughts become lively. Capturing Di Lingtian alive could not only boost morale, but he could also obtain the scarlet pupils. So why not? It's a little troublesome to capture him alive. You should handle this yourself. If there's nothing important, don't call me. The sapling shook its branches and then completely disappeared. It wasn't that the sapling didn't want to help Ningyu, but this was a simulation of the primordial battlefield. He could only help once. Any more and he would be discovered by the special rules of the primordial battlefield and be expelled. At that time, not only would they not be able to help Ningyu, they would even harm Ningyu. Therefore, the sapling decided to wait and see. No, it should be said that it decided not to help Ningyu anymore. Ningyu was completely speechless when the sapling came out to cause trouble. It's fine if you don't want to help, but you're actually here to make trouble. Capturing Di Lingtian alive is indeed a little difficult. Although the sapling's actions were comical, it still allowed Ningyu to find a breakthrough point. Space law. The sapling was an outsider. If he made a move, the primordial battlefield would deem it as someone interfering in the battle. The law of space was different. To be precise, the law of space around Ningyu was different. The law of space cultivated by others wouldn't even have a spiritual consciousness. But the law of space around Ningyu not only reached the level of a grade 4 Earth Supreme, but it also had a spiritual consciousness. Even if this was really the primordial battlefield, it wouldn't deem the law of space as interfering in the battle. Law of space, I'll think of a way to get close to Di Lingtian later. Wait for an opportunity to attack and enter his body. Ningyu did things swiftly and decisively, without the slightest bit of sloppiness. He stomped on the ground and his body dashed out quickly. Kai kai. The whistling wind drifted past Ningyu's ears. Almost in an instant, Ningyu arrived in front of Di Lingtian. You want to fight me in close combat? As you wish. Di Lingtian clenched his fists and smashed them towards Ningyu. Earlier, Di Lingtian didn't dare to fight Ningyu in close combat because he used the Scarlet Eye and was afraid that Ningyu would forcefully awaken him. But it was different now. He retracted the Scarlet Eye and could already fight in close combat with Ningyu. Bang! Close combat required experience. Often, an experienced martial artist could fight 1 or 2 levels above and not be at a disadvantage. Between Ningyu and Di Lingtian, it was very obvious that Ningyu was the one with the most experience. Although his cultivation was a few levels lower than Di Lingtian's, in the battle with Di Lingtian, not only did Ningyu not fall into a disadvantage, he even faintly suppressed Di Lingtian. Scram! Di Lingtian raised his head and roared, hurriedly wanting to separate from Ningyu. The plot was a little different from what Di Lingtian imagined. Di Lingtian wanted to capture Ningyu in close combat, but the current situation was that he was almost captured by Ningyu. If this continued, he would definitely be captured alive by Ningyu. I have to fight from a distance. My advantage is cultivation and the degree of vitality. Di Lingtian gathered the vitality in his sea of consciousness on his wrist and punched towards Ningyu's chest with a backhand. Bang! Just as the fist landed on Ningyu's chest, Di Lingtian hurriedly retreating all the way to the borders of the ancient battlefield before stopping. Fart! On the other hand, after Ningyu was hit by Di Lingtian, he spat out a large mouthful of fresh blood, his face becoming extremely pale. Ha ha ha, good. Di Lingtian. Good job. As expected of our Emperor God Palace's peerless genius, defeating Ningyu with one punch. Elder Meng, please open the ancient battlefield. Seeing that Di Lingtian won, the few martial artists from Emperor God Palace all revealed a look of wild elation. Some of them cheered, some of them jumped for joy, and there were even some who shifted their gaze towards Meng Quan, wanting Meng Quan to open the ancient battlefield so that they could enter and capture Ningyu. Something doesn't seem right. Meng Quan wouldn't be stupid enough to open the ancient battlefield. His focus wasn't on who won between Ning Yu and Di Lingtian, but why Fairy Yun she hadn't come out yet. Ever since Ning Yu and Di Lingtian entered the ancient battlefield, more than 10 minutes had passed. In just over 10 minutes, Ning Yu had been defeated by Di Lingtian, but Fairy Yun she hadn't appeared yet. Did I judge wrongly? Fairy Yun she has always been in Giant Shield City. A cold gleam flashed in Di Lingtian's eyes. If Fairy Yun she was in Giant Shield City, then he had really been busy for nothing during this period of time. Not only would he not be able to enter Giant Shield City, but he would also lose an ancient battlefield. A huge loss. Di Lingtian, capture Ningyu for me. With a cold look, Meng Quan pointed at Ningyu in the ancient battlefield and berated. Sure. Without the need for Meng Quan to say anything, Di Lingtian had already slowly walked towards Ningyu. Di Lingtian was very sure that his punch had landed on Ningyu's chest earlier on. However, Di Lingtian wasn't very sure about Ningyu's current state. Would he be able to display 10% or 20% of his strength? Since he wasn't sure, Di Lingtian didn't dare to be careless. His feet moved and he walked towards Ningyu step by step. Roughly 3 minutes later, Di Lingtian arrived in front of Ningyu and stood still. You've lost to me in the end. Di Lingtian's lips curled up and he said sinisterly, if I want to kill you now, it's as easy as squashing an ant. Is that so? Ningyu's dim eyes suddenly lit up. An indifferent voice rang in Di Lingtian's ears. You have the spatial laws that I left behind in your body. If you don't want to die, do as I say next. Hearing Ningyu's words, Di Lingtian seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world and laughed out loud right away. Ha ha ha, Ningyu, have you lost your mind? However, Di Lingtian's maniacal laughter had just reached halfway when it stopped abruptly. Chapter 1542. Chapter 1542, Seizing Your Body. In that instant when he was laughing maniacally earlier, Di Lingtian felt something moving in his body. Even with Di Lingtian's experience, he was also unable to determine what was in his body. I said before, spatial law. Ningyu wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth and said indifferently, from now on, you'd better do as I say. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. I'll do as you say. Dream on. Di Lingtian naturally would not listen to Ningyu's nonsense. His mind moved, wanting to force out the thing in his body. The reason why Di Lingtian did not believe Ningyu was not because he had the confidence to force out the thing in his body, but because he did not believe that there would be spatial law in his body. One had to know that even Sky Supreme powerhouses might not be able to cultivate the power of law. Ningyu was only a grade 9 human supreme. Could he cultivate the power of law? The answer was obviously no. Hiss. However, no matter how Di Lingtian forced, there was no way to force out the thing in his body. So much so that the thing in Di Lingtian's body was still wantonly destroying. At this moment, Di Lingtian's internal organs were about to shift positions. The piercing pain made Di Lingtian involuntarily suck in a breath of cold air. Now that it had come to this, Di Lingtian already faintly believed in Ningyu. Kill for me. Although he faintly believed in Ningyu, Di Lingtian did not completely believe in Ningyu. He mobilized the essence in his sea of consciousness, wanting to launch a fatal attack on Ningyu. At such a close distance, Di Lingtian had great confidence that he could defeat Ningyu, or even kill Ningyu. TSK. However, Di Lingtian thought well in his heart, but when he actually put it into practice, it was a different scene. Di Lingtian was shocked to discover that the thing in his body moved rapidly and came to his sea of consciousness. The violent essence in his sea of consciousness became even more violent at this moment. Because the thing in his body, which was the spatial law that Ningyu mentioned, was actually devouring his essence. If this went on, in just a few minutes, the essence in his sea of consciousness would be completely devoured. What do you think? I don't want to repeat myself a third time. Ningyu transmitted his voice to Di Lingtian again. Since he wanted to put on a show, Ningyu would definitely not let Meng Quan and the others see through him. Hence, in the eyes of Meng Quan and the rest, it was Ningyu who was begging Di Lingtian to let him go, not Ningyu who was controlling Di Lingtian. Di Di Lingtian opened his mouth, and just as he was about to scream, he let out another heart-wrenching scream. Fortunately, I was prepared. Otherwise, your screams would have been heard by others. Ning Yu had a sense of propriety. Since he decided to control Di Lingtian, he would settle things properly. A small-scale soundproofing array was set up in the surroundings, causing Di Lingtian's screams to not travel out. Ning Yu, stop talking nonsense with him. I can directly occupy his body and control him. Space Law was a little impatient. Di Lingtian refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Leaving him alive was also a scourge. Who knows, he might even bite back at Ning Yu in the future. Hence, Space Law directly said to Ning Yu, I can't keep showing off Space Law to others. If I meet someone with ulterior motives, it would be troublesome. How confident are you in successfully seizing the body? Ning Yu was a little tempted as he asked, 100%. Space Law replied. Immediately after, regardless of whether Ning Yu agreed or not, it directly devoured Di Lingtian's primordial spirit. His primordial spirit was devoured. Di Lingtian let out a hysterical scream. Damn it, why can't I use Scarlet Pupil? In a panic, Di Lingtian's first choice was to use Scarlet Pupil and forcefully use Scarlet Pupil. However, his primordial spirit was currently being devoured by Space Law. It was already impossible for him to use Scarlet Pupil. Ning Yu, I promise to submit to you. You can't kill me. Di Lingtian finally panicked. He hurriedly said to Ning Yu, I am the supreme genius of Emperor God Palace. My master is the old ancestor of Emperor God Palace. As long as you let me go, I promise to give you benefits. Great benefits. I'm sorry. I gave you a chance but you didn't know how to cherish it. Now. Ning Yu shrugged and said, it's too late. Fart. Following Ning Yu's words, Di Lingtian suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. At that moment, Di Lingtian was stunned on the spot and his eyes dimmed. Swoosh. Luckily, Di Lingtian's stupor didn't last long and he quickly returned to normal. However, Di Lingtian's return to normal didn't seem normal no matter how one looked at it. It seemed to be different from before. Are you Di Lingtian or Space Law? Ning Yu looked into Di Lingtian's eyes and opened his mouth to ask. What do you think? Di Lingtian's lips curled up and his face revealed a playful smile as he stared at Ning Yu and said, I. Di Lingtian's actions made Ning Yu swear. Done. The Di Lingtian in front of him wasn't Di Lingtian. In other words, the Di Lingtian in front of him only had a body that belonged to Di Lingtian. His primordial spirit and soul power had already been completely devoured by Space Law. Space Law was Di Lingtian and Di Lingtian was Space Law. Good job. After knowing that Space Law had taken over Di Lingtian's body, Ning Yu was overjoyed. Di Lingtian was the supreme genius of Emperor God Palace and was very useful to Ning Yu. Now that he was controlled by Space Law, Ning Yu was naturally very excited. Space Law, next, I will pretend to be controlled by you. You get Meng Quan to open up the ancient battlefield and then like this. After saying that, Ning Yu's eyes rolled back and he fell in front of Space Law. Space Law also kicked Ning Yu sensibly and then said in a clear voice, Elder Meng, Ning Yu is already controlled by me. I'll have to trouble you to open up the ancient battlefield now. Swoosh. Meng Quan's expression was very ugly. Ning Yu being controlled by Di Lingtian was something that he had long expected. But he didn't expect that even when Ning Yu was controlled, Fairy Yun she still didn't appear. If Fairy Yun she didn't appear, then wouldn't he have wasted the ancient battlefield for nothing? Wait a while more. Meng Quan's expression was dark as he said, you must ensure that you control Ning Yu for me and break one of his legs. Otherwise, I won't open up the ancient battlefield. Elder Meng, if I break both of Ning Yu's legs, the people from Giant Shield City will definitely break both of my master's legs. So, I can't do as you say. Space Law said blankly. Not only did Space Law take over Di Lingtian's body, but it also corroded Di Lingtian's memories. In other words, Space Law knew that Ning Yu had taken control of Emperor God Palace's patriarch. Do you know who you're talking to? Meng Quan's expression was terrifyingly grim as he berated. Elder Meng, My master is still in Giant Shield City and Ningyu is the leader of Giant Shield City. I want to use Ningyu to exchange for my master. Chapter 1543. Chapter 1543. Chapter 1543. Arrive just in time, you are threatening me. Meng Quan glared at Di Lingtian, who was in the primordial battlefield. His originally gloomy face became even gloomier. Meng Quan had already made up his mind that as long as Fairy Yun Shi did not appear, he would not open the ancient battlefield. He didn't care whether the palace master of Emperor God Palace came or not. Moreover, even if the palace master of Emperor Divine Palace came personally, he would not open the ancient battlefield. This was a matter of principle. I'm not threatening you. If you don't open the primordial battlefield, I can only wait here for the palace lord to come. The Law of Space shrugged, then found a place in the primordial battlefield, sat down cross-legged, and closed his eyes to rest. Ka. The movement of the Law of Space caused Meng Quan to clench his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. How dare a mere first-grade Earth sovereign like you threaten me in front of so many people? Uncle could endure it, but Aunt couldn't. Elder Meng, in my opinion, it's better to release Di Lingtian first. Shido the Venerable One first looked at Ningyu and Di Lingtian on the ancient battlefield, then he looked at Meng Quan and said, our main task is to break into Giant Shield City, not to become enemies with the Emperor Divine Palace. That's right. We're not afraid of the Emperor Palace, but it'll be troublesome if the Palace Master of the Emperor Palace sees their peerless genius trapped in the ancient battlefield, Nando the Venerable chimed in. Releasing Di Lingtian and Ningyu from the primordial battlefield won't do us any harm. On the contrary, it will bring us many benefits. Beidou Venerable frowned. Firstly, the Emperor Palace won't cause us trouble. Secondly, you can forcefully seize Ningyu after the ancient battlefield opens so that you can control him. Big Dipper the Venerable One's words resonated with Meng Quan. Meng Quan slapped his thigh and waved his hands repeatedly. In an instant, 2 rays of cold light shot out. Shio. The speed of the cold light was very fast. It arrived at the edge of the primordial battlefield almost instantly and entered the primordial battlefield in front of everyone. Voila! In an instant, the primordial battlefield disappeared completely. Whoosh! As soon as the primordial battlefield disappeared, Meng Quan charged towards Ningyu at a terrifying speed. It was true that Meng Quan had broken through the primordial battlefield, but he had to control Ningyu no matter what. Controlling Ningyu meant controlling Giant Shield City. In order to reach Ningyu's side a bit earlier, Meng Quan didn't hesitate to ignite his blood essence. In just a few seconds, he arrived in front of Ningyu and used his iron-like fist to strike Ningyu's chest. Meng Quan did not want to kill Ningyu right now. Therefore, although Meng Quan's punch seemed to be very powerful, it was actually not. It was only 1% of his peak strength. Even if it was just 1% of his strength, Ningyu might not be able to withstand it. Meng Quan, what the hell are you doing? At the critical moment, the Law of Space controlled Di Lingtian's body and firmly blocked in front of Ningyu. Bang! Without a doubt. Although the Law of Space's cultivation had reached Grade 4 Earth Sovereign, it was extremely difficult for it to withstand even 1% of Meng Quan's strength. A crisp sound rang out and the Law of Space was like a kite with a broken string as it flew out. Fortunately, the cultivators of the Divine Emperor Palace reacted quickly and firmly caught the Law of Space. Otherwise, the Law of Space would definitely be smashed to pieces. Although the Law of Space did not manage to withstand Meng Quan's attack was slightly affected. Russell, Daoist Shenmo, Grandmaster Xingyun, and a dozen burly men instantly appeared around Ningyu and firmly protected Ningyu. Everyone, attack together. Meng Quan's target was Ningyu. Therefore, before he captured Ningyu alive, it was impossible for him to retreat. Hearing Meng Quan's words, the Western Dipper Venerable and Southern Dipper Venerable swiftly moved. On Meng Quan's side, there was the Southern Dipper Venerable, Western Dipper Venerable, and a dozen other 9th-grade Earth Sovereigns. On Ningyu's side, there was Daoist Shenmo, Grandmaster Xingyun, and a dozen burly men. A battle instantly broke out. The burly men faced the 9th-grade Earth Sovereigns of the 4 armies, Daoist Shenmo faced Meng Quan, and Grandmaster Xingyun took the Yuzun Pagoda from Ningyu and fought with the Southern Dipper Venerable and the rest. The situation on the three battlefields was very tragic. Generally speaking, the Burly Men's battle was the most advantageous for Ningyu. Although the Burly Men's cultivation was only at the pinnacle 8th grade Earth Sovereign Realm, they were golden Arowanas, so it wasn't an issue for them to fight across realms. In just a minute, 3 9th grade Earth Sovereigns had been killed. The Burly Men's battle was advantageous, but Daoist Shenmo was in a troublesome situation. Daoist Shenmo was only a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign. If he didn't use his trump card, he wouldn't be able to confront Meng Quan head-on. After all, Meng Quan was a half-step heavenly sovereign. And Daoist Shenmo clearly didn't want to use his trump card now. Therefore, Daoist Shenmo resisted Meng Quan's attacks with great difficulty while looking for an opportunity to return to Giant Shield City. As for Grandmaster Xingyun, he was stronger than Daoist Shenmo, but weaker than the Burly Men. With the Yuzun Pagoda in hand, Grandmaster Xingyun didn't show any signs of being in a disadvantageous position even though he was fighting 1 against 3. However, Grandmaster Xingyun was well aware that he would definitely be defeated after a period of time. That was because the Southern Dipper Venerable and the rest had yet to use their full strength. They were only probing attacks. Why hasn't Fairy Yun Shi come out yet? Although Meng Quan was fighting Daoist Shenmo, his attention was on Ningyu. Fairy Yun Shi's absence had caused Meng Quan's patience to gradually wear thin. Meng Quan had even made up his mind that if Fairy Yun Shi didn't appear in 3 minutes, he would launch a powerful attack on Giant Shield City without holding back. Drip, drip. 3 minutes passed by in the blink of an eye. However, when the 3rd minute passed, Meng Quan's face was extremely gloomy. 3 minutes had passed and Fairy Yun Shi had yet to appear. Die. Meng Quan's eyes shone with a terrifying glint. The word die came out of his mouth before he launched a frenzied attack at Daoist Shenmo Fut. Under Meng Quan's powerful attack, Daoist Shenmo was careless and was struck in the chest, causing him to spit out a large mouthful of blood. Retreat. Retreat to Giant Shield City at once. Enduring the swelling pain in his chest, Daoist Shenmo displayed a powerful trump card and forced Meng Quan to retreat. He then grabbed Ningyu and sprinted towards Giant Shield City. Trying to leave? Not so easy. Meng Quan seemed to have expected this move from Daoist Shenmo. Therefore, he wasn't particularly surprised at Daoist Shenmo's retreat. Instead, he ignited his blood essence and increased his speed to the limit, charging towards Ningyu. Crack, crack, crack. Right then, something strange happened. Whoosh. The void above the 4 armies split open and several figures appeared one after another. Chapter 1544. Trump Cards Golden Arowana. Meng Quan and the rest had no idea who those silhouettes were, but Ningyu knew who they were. The one leading them was the Golden Arowana King. Compared to the last time they met, the Golden Arowana King's strength had improved once again. Furthermore, the Golden Arowana King had brought along 20-odd 8th grade Earth Sovereigns. The destructive power of over 20 burly 8th grade Earth Sovereigns was extremely shocking. Arg! It was obvious that when these burly men charged into the 4 armies, several martial artists were killed. Meng Quan, Southern Dipper Venerable, and the rest were currently fighting with Master Xingyun and the rest, so they naturally couldn't be bothered with the 4 armies. Thus, this resulted in a situation one-sided. The 4 armies were quickly defeated, and they fled one after another. Damn it! The sudden change had caused the faces of Meng Quan and the rest to turn unsightly. Cursing inwardly, the Southern Dipper Venerable and the rest retreated and chose to deal with the burly men. As for Meng Quan, his gaze was cold. He wanted to capture Ningyu, but at the same time, he wanted to go back and save them. But his hesitation had given the Golden Arowana King an opportunity. Take this. The Golden Arowana Fish King abruptly appeared beside Meng Quan, its fist carrying an extremely violent Yuan Chi gale as it smashed towards Meng Quan's head. The Golden Arowana King did not want to leave anyone alive. He wanted to perform well beside Ningyu so that Ningyu could refine the Dragon Mark pellet for him. He had already witnessed Ningyu's capability. The reason why his strength had improved was because he had devoured the other pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign Golden Arowana in the Ruoshire River with the giant dizzy pill that Ningyu had given him. Although the Golden Arowana King's cultivation had not reached the Heavenly Sovereign Realm after devouring a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign Realm Golden Arowana. Following Ningyu, I'll be able to eat and drink well. This was what the Golden Arowana Fish King was thinking. Therefore, protecting Ningyu and performing well in front of Ningyu were the most important things for the Goldfish King at this stage. Bang! In a panic, Meng Quan punched out and collided with the Golden Arowana Fish King's fist. The two fists collided, and Meng Quan retreated rapidly. He even retreated to the edge of the four armies before he stopped. Who are you? After the punch, Meng Quan stared at the Golden Arowana Fish King and said coldly, "This is a grudge between us and Giant Shield City. I advise you not to interfere. If you leave now, I can let bygones be bygones." Noisy. Since it had decided to perform well in front of Ningyu, the Golden Arowana King would not waste any more time. He stomped his feet on the ground and dashed forward again. This is infuriating. Meng Quan's expression was livid when his question was ignored, and he even had the impulse to kill someone. Go. All of you, go. No matter what, we must capture Ningyu today. Through the previous exchange, Meng Quan had already determined the Golden Arowana Fish King's strength. In a head-on clash, he was not a match for the Golden Arowana Fish King. He could only be evenly matched with the Golden Arowana Fish King if he used his trump card. Should he use his trump card now? Meng Quan obviously would not do that. Meng Quan waved his right hand continuously and even used his feet. In an instant, the four armies beside Meng Quan were thrown out. Dozens of martial artists rushed toward the Golden Arowana Fish King, wanting to smash it into a meat patty. I was just worried that there would be no humans to eat. Looking at the martial artists rushing toward it, the Golden Arowana Fish King licked its lips and cast a questioning look at Ningyu. Try not to make it so bloody. Seeing the Golden Arowana Fish King's actions, Ningyu knew what it wanted to do. Humans like to eat fish, and fish like to eat humans. A fish overlord like the Golden Arowana Fish King should have eaten humans before. Got it. After receiving Ningyu's confirmation, the Golden Arowana Fish King nodded slightly and revealed a playful smile. Kai Kai. In an instant, the Golden Arowana Fish King dashed out and waved its hands. Almost every punch it threw would hit one of the four armies. Swoosh. In the next instant, the Golden Arowana Fish King found a large storage bag out of nowhere. Every soldier from the four armies that he killed would be stored in his storage pouch. In just a dozen or so seconds, the four armies that Meng Quan had thrown out were all stored into the Goldfish King's storage bag. Go, all of you, go. Meng Quan waved his right hand again, wanting to grab thousands of martial artists to block the Golden Arowana Fish King. Alas, these martial artists had learned their lesson. Meng Quan wanted to capture them. It would be very difficult. At this moment, on both sides of Meng Quan and behind him, there was not even a single person. They had all run away. Staying near Meng Quan meant certain death. No one was stupid, so they naturally retreated quickly. You guys. Meng Quan felt as if the tree had fallen and the ashes were about to scatter. He took a deep breath, then took out a scroll from his bosom and said in a low voice, "Although I don't know who you are, once this scroll of mine is used, the entire area will be consigned to eternal damnation. What does that have to do with me?" The Golden Arowana Fish King rolled its eyes. "If you know what's good for you, hurry up and kowtow to me, then become my mount. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson." Ha ha ha. As if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, Meng Quan threw his head back and laughed maniacally. He then said coldly, "I think you've lost your mind. Since you're so stubborn, I have no choice but to activate the ancient scroll and kill you here." Crack. As Meng Quan's voice fell, the void around him suddenly cracked open, and he quickly entered the void. Not good, run. The Golden Arowana Fish King's heart thumped. Without thinking, he immediately ordered the burly men to retreat. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Golden Arowana Fish King's order was very effective. Over 20 burly men immediately retreated and charged toward Giant Shield City at top speed. Creak. Giant Shield City's gate was slowly pushed open from the inside. The Golden Arowana Fish King, the burly men, Master Xingyun, and Kaimo quickly entered Giant Shield City. Rumble. As soon as Ning Yu and the rest entered Giant Shield City, Meng Quan activated the ancient scroll, which suddenly exploded. The explosion of the scroll created an extremely terrifying shockwave. Meng Quan, you old fart, are you crazy? Shido the Venerable was so furious that his lungs were about to explode. Meng Quan clearly did this without considering the consequences. It was clearly the worst decision he had made while he was furious. When the scroll exploded, Ning Yu and the rest had already entered Giant Shield City. They were probably unharmed due to the unique killing formation's resistance. However, they could not resist at all, so they could only keep retreating. Everyone, leave quickly. Shido the Venerable still had time to scold them, but South Dipper the Venerable and Big Dipper the Venerable did not want to talk to Meng Quan at all. As they retreated, they evacuated their respective armies to preserve their living forces as much as possible. Nonetheless, they knew very well that after the explosion of the scroll, 80% of the martial artists with low cultivation bases among the four armies would die here. Chapter 1545. A hidden powerhouse. I don't believe that you won't come out. Meng Quan wasn't concerned about the casualties of the four armies. At this moment, he was like a demon as he stared at the space before Giant Shield City, wanting to see Fairy Yunshi being forced out. Rumble. However, what happened next completely disappointed Meng Quan. Fairy Yunshi didn't appear even after the aftermath of the scroll's explosion disappeared. This situation made Meng Quan's face turn extremely dark. He went for wool and came home shorn, suffering a double loss. This sentence was the most appropriate to describe Meng Quan. Not only did he fail to force Fairy Yunshi out, but he even caused the four armies to suffer heavy losses. Before the four armies even faced Giant Shield City, they had already lost 80% of their cultivators. Although the cultivators that died didn't have high cultivation, the Southern Dipper Venerable and the rest clearly couldn't accept this loss. Meng Quan, you have to give us an explanation for this, the Southern Dipper Venerable said coldly as he came before Meng Quan. That's right. If you don't give us an explanation today, the consequences will be unimaginable. Not only the Southern Dipper Venerable, but even the Western Dipper Venerable and Northern Dipper Venerable spoke with a cold tone. If only a few cultivators had died, the Southern Dipper Venerable and the rest naturally wouldn't go against Meng Quan. After all, even if the three of them joined forces, they might not be Meng Quan's opponent. However, they had lost 80% of their cultivators, and it would be an understatement to say that they had suffered heavy losses. After losing so many cultivators, they no longer had an overwhelming advantage against the cultivators of Giant Shield City. It was so much so that when the Golden Arowana Fish King appeared with over 20 burly 8th grade Earth Sovereigns, the outcome of their battle with the Giant Shield City was already unknown. The explanation I'm giving you is to attack the gates of Giant Shield City right now, immediately, and immediately. Attack at all costs. We must blast open the gate of Giant Shield City within 30 minutes. Meng Quan first looked at the Southern Dipper Venerable and the rest before his tone turned extremely cold. If you can't blast the gate open within 30 minutes, then don't blame me for being rude. Whoosh. Meng Quan's words stirred up stormy waves in the hearts of the Venerable One and the others. The four armies had just lost 80% of their warriors, and now they wanted to attack Giant Shield City. Had Meng Quan lost his mind? It was unwise to attack Giant Shield City now. Didn't you hear what I said? Attack Giant Shield City and beat them up. Seeing that the Southern Dipper Venerable and the rest were stunned, Meng Quan said in a solemn voice, all 9th grade Earth Sovereigns, attack. Blast open the city gate. Nando the Venerable and the others did not say a word as they were deep in thought. Now that Meng Quan was powerful, and with Meng Quan's personality, it was very likely that he would make a move against them. So they had no other choice. After exchanging glances, South Dipper and West Dipper Venerable Ones said at the same time, this will be the last time. I hope you won't disappoint us. Thereafter, the 9th grade Earth Sovereigns of the four armies swiftly moved towards the Giant Shield City and launched a ferocious attack. If the attacks of cultivators below the Earth Sovereign realm were like the attacks of a child, Then the attacks of a ninth-grade Earth Sovereign were like a burly man hammering on the city gate. Boom, boom, boom. All sorts of spiritual arts bombarded the giant shield city's gate. These ninth-grade Earth Sovereigns were well trained, and they knew that the peerless killing array would reflect attacks. So every time they launched an attack, they would immediately dodge to the side to avoid the reflected attack. Not good, the four armies have started to attack the city gate. Although the peerless killing array is blocking, the small array cores will soon be attracted over if this goes on. On the city gate, Ningyu's face was extremely unsightly. The destructive power of a ninth-grade Earth Sovereign was extremely terrifying. If they didn't do anything, then the small array cores would definitely be attracted over after a period of time. Once the small array cores were attracted over, then Meng Quan and the Southern Dipper Venerable would be able to break the peerless killing array with their frenzied attack. At that time, Giant Shield City would fall into a state of eternal damnation. It's nothing. Seeing the change in Ningyu's expression, the Golden Arowana King waved his hand, then said to the 40 burly men behind him, "Go and guard the city gate. If necessary, get rid of those ninth-grade Earth Sovereigns for me." Initially, there were a dozen burly men who followed Ningyu to Giant Shield City. Later on, the Golden Arowana King brought another 20 burly men. Altogether, there were a total of 40 burly men. 40 burly men meant that there were 48th-grade Earth Sovereigns. This combat strength was already comparable to the upper echelons of the four armies. "That's not what I'm worried about." Ningyu took a deep breath and said, "After you appeared, Meng Quan still took the initiative to attack Giant Shield City. This means that there's a high possibility that he left a spy in Giant Shield City." "There's a spy?" Hearing Ningyu's words, Daoist Jimo's face turned extremely unsightly. He was in charge of eradicating the spies. If there were still spies in Giant Shield City, then the consequences would be unimaginable. "I'll bring my men to search right now. Even if I have to dig 3 feet into the ground, I'll dig out the spy," Daoist Jimo said coldly. "Don't alert the enemy." Ningyu slowly shook his head and said, "You bring a few burly men to the north gate. Grandmaster Xingyun, bring a few burly men to the west gate. Bada, bring a few burly men to the east gate. As for this place, leave it to me to guard." "Okay." Daoist Jimo and the others did not question Ningyu's decision. Each of them brought a few burly men and left according to Ningyu's instructions. "Ningyu, why go through so much trouble? Let me bring all the golden Arawanas and kill our way out. We can definitely capture that Meng Quan alive." The Golden Arowana King thought that Ningyu's worries were unnecessary. After all, he wasn't inferior to Meng Quan in a one-on-one fight. Furthermore, he had many golden Arawanas with him. If they attacked together, there was a high chance that they could capture Meng Quan. Even Southern Dipper the Venerable and the other half-step Sky Supremes would be captured by him. "With your current strength, do you think you'll be able to contend against a mid-Sky Supreme?" Ningyu stared at the Golden Arowana King and suddenly asked an irrelevant question. Hearing Ningyu's words, the Golden Arowana King was a little stunned. However, after a brief daze, the Golden Arowana King replied like a teacher, "With my overall strength, I can only contend against an early-stage Sky Supreme head-on. If I want to contend against a mid-stage Sky Supreme, I'll have to become a Sky Supreme. Then there's that." Chapter 1546. Fighting 1 against 4-inch middle stage Heavenly Supreme. Ningyu's words made the Golden Arowana King's heart skip a beat. He was only a pinnacle 9th-grade Earth Supreme. Even as the king of the Golden Arowana clan, it would be difficult for him to fight against a middle-stage Heavenly Supreme. In the next moment, the Golden Arowana King looked at Ningyu with gratitude. It was all thanks to Ningyu's physique. Otherwise, he would definitely be captured by that middle-stage Heavenly Supreme if he left the Giant Shield City to capture Meng Quan. "We can't just sit here and wait for death, right?" The Golden Arowana King stared at the enraged Meng Quan and said hesitantly, "We're not sitting here and waiting, we're waiting." Ningyu's expression was calm, without the slightest fluctuation in his emotions. As long as the middle stage Heavenly Supreme didn't appear, it would be difficult for the four armies led by Meng Quan to break through the killing formation of the Giant Shield City. After all, the dozens of 8th grade Earth Supreme goldfishes that the Golden Arowana King brought could perfectly defend against the 9th grade Earth Sovereigns of the 4 armies. Wait. The Golden Arowana King frowned at Ningyu's words. He was a little confused. Wasn't waiting just waiting for death? Right, Golden Arowana King, what's the situation at the 100-Flower Palace? Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and asked the Golden Arowana King. Fairy Yun Shi is controlling the 100-Flower Palace's formation to defend against 2 middle-stage Heavenly Supreme experts. As for the Palace Master of the 100-Flower Palace, she seems to have been in the forbidden area ever since we left. The Golden Arowana King replied. I wonder if that old ancestor of the 100-Flower Palace is fine. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu slowly closed his eyes. At the same time, he sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. The reason why Ningyu was waiting was that old ancestor of the 100-Flower Palace. Ningyu believed that once that old ancestor came, Meng Quan and the Southern Dipper Venerable would definitely be finished. Of course, it was still unknown whether or not the old ancestor would come. Ningyu was not very sure. Seeing Ningyu sitting down to cultivate, the Golden Arowana King's face darkened. Others are already at your doorstep, yet you still have the leisure to cultivate. You're now a 9th grade initial human supreme. So what if you can advance to a 9th grade intermediate human supreme? Could it be that he could solve the predicament in front of him? Catcher. Ningyu couldn't care less about what the Golden Arowana Fish King was thinking. He took out a few pieces of yuan crystals and tossed them into his mouth. As the crystal shattered, Ningyu activated the spirit transformation art and began to absorb the primal chi within the crystal. Ningyu was now an early-stage 9th grade human sovereign. After this period of battle, he had reached the peak of early-stage 9th grade human sovereign and was only half a step away from advancing to the middle-stage 9th grade human sovereign. In any case, Meng Quan wouldn't be able to break the killing formation of Giant Shield City in a short period of time. Since he had nothing to do during this period of time, he might as well use this time to cultivate and advance to the middle stage 9th grade human sovereign first. Under Ningyu's devouring, a piece of yuan crystal only lasted for a few minutes before it was completely devoured. Very quickly, Ningyu took out a second piece of yuan crystal and devoured it. Are you sure there's something we need in Giant Shield City? While Ningyu was diligently cultivating, above the 4 armies, in the void in front of Meng Quan, a faint voice suddenly rang out. Hearing this voice, Meng Quan didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly said, I'm not sure if there's anything we need in Giant Shield City, but I know that the Palace Master of the 100 Flowers Palace is in Giant Shield City. The Palace Master of the 100 Flowers Palace? The voice in the void was a little hoarse, as if the speaker had purposely changed his voice to make it hard for others to hear it. The hoarse voice paused for a moment, then continued, Giant Shield City's peerless killing array seems very difficult to break, but as long as you attack one point with all your strength, you will be able to attract a small array eye over. After the small array eye comes over, I have a way to break it open. Thanks. Meng Quan had an ecstatic expression on his face. The reason why Meng Quan did not make a move was because he was afraid that the small-scale array core would be attracted over, and he wouldn't be able to break it. Now that the cultivators in the void had agreed to break the small-scale array core, Meng Quan was naturally happy. Meng Do Venerable, Big Dipper Venerable, Shido Venerable, follow me. Meng Quan roared and charged towards the south gate of Giant Shield City. Has he lost his mind? Seeing Meng Quan charging towards the south gate like a madman, Shido Venerable and the rest had puzzled expressions on their faces. In the view of Shido Venerable and the rest, letting the 9th grade Earth Sovereigns of the 4 armies attack the south gate was already a risky move. Meng Quan actually wanted them to make a move. Wasn't that nonsense? Shido Venerable and the rest had indifferent gazes without any intention of making a move. If you don't make a move, then die. Who knew? A cold voice was suddenly heard by Shido the Venerable One and the others. Rustle. That cold voice caused fear to appear on the faces of Shido Venerable and the rest. Shido Venerable and the rest weren't fledglings. On the contrary, they were old foxes. From that voice, they could tell that the owner of that voice was at least a middle-phase heavenly sovereign. The 3 of them were all quasi-heavenly sovereigns, so facing a middle phase heavenly sovereign would only mean death. What should we do? Shido Venerable and the rest exchanged a look and could see the fear in each other's eyes. What else can we do? Let's go. Nando Venerable gritted his teeth and charged towards the south gate of Giant Shield City. With a middle phase heavenly sovereign interfering, they had no choice but to give it their all. If they incurred the displeasure of a middle phase heavenly sovereign, then they would definitely have to return home to sell their sweet potatoes. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Nando Venerable, Shido Venerable, and Beidou Venerable. The three of them swiftly arrived at the south gate of Giant Shield City in an instant and attacked the south gate with Meng Quan. Boom. Under the defense of the burly man, the 9th grade Earth sovereigns of the four armies couldn't pose any threat to the south gate. But with Meng Quan and the other three quasi-heavenly sovereigns joining the battle, the situation had instantly changed. In just a single exchange, 2 burly men had been blasted to death. How infuriating. The death of the burly men had enraged the Golden Arowana King. Every single burly man was a pinnacle powerhouse of his Golden Arowana clan, and the death of one meant one less. Now that 2 of them had died, how could the Golden Arowana King not be enraged? Open the gate and let me face them. A cold light flashed in the Golden Arowana King's eyes as his silhouette flickered and instantly appeared before the gate. Creak. When the gate opened, the Golden Arowana King left the Giant Shield City and fought with Meng Quan and the rest. 1 against 4. With the cultivation of a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign, the Golden Arowana Fish King was fighting 4 quasi-heavenly sovereigns at the same time. Although it was at a slight disadvantage, the Golden Arowana Fish King's performance had left everyone in Giant Shield City shocked. However, the one who was the most shocked was the mid-stage Sky Supreme in the distance. Chapter 1547. Battle begins. It's a Golden Arowana. The mid-Sky Supreme's expression changed from ecstasy to greed. A Golden Arowana, a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign realm Golden Arowana. For any pinnacle 9th grade alchemist, it was an excellent material. Using the Golden Arowana King's inner core, one could refine a heaven-defying pill. No matter what, I have to capture this Golden Arowana King alive. The mid-Sky Supreme's lips curled into a sinister smile. His figure flickered as he charged at the Golden Arowana King at an astonishing speed. Not good. As soon as the mid-Sky Supreme moved, Ningyu's eyes snapped open and he hurriedly yelled at the Golden Arowana King, "Watch out." Bang. However, Ningyu's warning was clearly a beat too late. The mid-Sky Supreme arrived before the Golden Arowana King in an instant and threw a punch, bringing with it a terrifying gust of wind as it slammed into the Golden Arowana King's chest. The immense force sent the Golden Arowana Fish King flying backward. Ha ha ha, looks like coming to Giant Shield City was the right choice. The mid-Sky Supreme threw his head back and laughed maniacally after sending the Golden Arowana King flying. His figure turned into a blur as he shot forward again. The mid-Sky Supreme's goal was clear. He didn't want to capture the Golden Arowana King alive, but to kill it and take its inner core. Refining pills required an inner core, and the Golden Arowana King's inner core was an excellent material for refining pills. It couldn't be wasted. Therefore, the mid-Sky Supreme's speed was extremely fast. He arrived before the Golden Arowana King in an instant and punched the Golden Arowana King's head. The punch of a mid-stage Sky Supreme was extremely powerful, and it contained a terrifying fluctuation of vital energy. If the Golden Arowana King was unlucky enough to be hit, it would definitely die on the spot. Damn it! Ningyu couldn't help calling out when he saw the Golden Arowana King's dangerous situation. Grandmaster Xingyun, Bada, Dao Master Ji Mo, hurry to the south, bang. However, before Ningyu could finish his sentence, he stopped abruptly. This was because Ningyu saw the void beside the Golden Arowana Fish King suddenly split open, and a white-haired, emaciated old man suddenly appeared. When the old man appeared, he pushed his right hand out and collided with the mid-stage Sky Supreme's fist. Catcher! Ah! 2 voices rang out in succession. The first was the crisp sound of bones breaking. The second was the miserable shriek of a mid-stage Sky Supreme. You, the mid-heavenly sovereign hurriedly retreated, staring at the white-haired old man with fear on his face. Swish, swish, swish. The elder's sudden appearance made Meng Quan, Nando the Venerable, and the others, who were far away, feel their hearts skip a beat. Meng Quan and the others hastily flew to the Mid-Sky Supreme's side. People from the Alchemy Union, on account of our old friends, I will give you a chance to live. The white-haired old man's face was expressionless as he said, leave behind all your treasures and elixirs, then scram back to the Alchemy Union. Catcher. The mid-stage Heavenly Sovereign's face was dark as he unleashed his powerful perception, trying to probe the old man's background. Unfortunately, the mid-stage Heavenly Supreme's actions had brought disaster upon himself. Another hysterical shriek resounded, and the mid-stage Heavenly Sovereign finally became obedient. Be it in terms of cultivation or soul energy, the old man was several times stronger than him. It could be said that the two of them weren't on the same level. We'll meet again. The mid-stage Heavenly Sovereign coldly snorted as he took out an interspatial pouch and threw it on the ground, then he tore through space and entered it. Seeing that the mid-stage Heavenly Sovereign had given in, Meng Quan and the rest's faces turned ugly. Without any hesitation, Meng Quan, Shido the Venerable, and the rest left behind their interspatial pouches and followed behind the mid-stage Heavenly Sovereign, disappearing into the void. Rustle. With the leader gone, the remaining 4 armies immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Not long after, they all dispersed. Naturally, there were still a few that couldn't escape in time. For example, there were 4 to 5 9th-grade Earth Sovereigns that couldn't escape in time, and they were obstructed by Demon Sage and the other robust men. Rustle. Not long after Meng Quan and the rest left, the space in this region split apart and 2 silhouettes appeared. Fairy Yun Shi and the 100 Flowers Palace Master. Those 2 silhouettes were the 100 Flowers Palace Master and Fairy Yun Shi. Let's enter the Giant Shield City first. After the 100 Flowers Palace Master appeared, she and Fairy Yun Shi immediately supported the white-haired old man into the Giant Shield City. So that's the case. When Ning Yu saw the 100 Flowers Princess and Fairy Yun Shi's actions, he instantly understood what was going on. It was no wonder why the old man didn't kill them all. It turned out that he didn't have the strength to do so. If I've guessed correctly, that old man should be a pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign, but he suffered some sort of injury that caused his strength to drop. Ning Yu muttered. The old man was the ancestor of the 100 Flowers Palace, and there was no reason for him to let Meng Quan and the rest leave. Since the old man let them leave, there was only one possibility. The old man wasn't in his peak state. It was only when the old man appeared that the Giant Shield City's predicament was resolved. This encirclement and counter-encirclement battle finally ended with the Demon Spirit Realm experts dying and Meng Quan and the others escaping the Great Dew Country. Generally speaking, the one who benefited the most was Ning Yu. In the Ascension Tower, there was the Jin family's ancestor, Jin Bo, the pinnacle 9th-grade alchemist of the Jin family, and Jin Yi, the Emperor Palace's ancestor. The Emperor Palace's ancestor's direct disciple, Di Lingtian, was also successfully possessed by the law of space. Right now, he should be back at the Emperor Palace. Ning Yu didn't think about it for the time being. The most important thing right now was to go to the City Lord's mansion and check on the old man's injuries. The old man was a pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign, and if he could find a way to treat him, then when Ning Yu established his force, there would be a pinnacle powerhouse presiding over it, and it would become a top-tiered force in the Sky Demon domain. I should be able to decide on the shape of my force today. Ning Yu's silhouette flashed as he rushed towards the City Lord's mansion. City Lord's mansion, conference hall. The atmosphere was extremely solemn, and no one spoke a word. Although the 4 armies had retreated and the 100 Flowers Palace had been recaptured, everyone in the conference hall was a high-leveled cultivator, with the weakest being Master Xingyun, an 8th-grade Earth Sovereign. It could be said that everyone in the conference hall knew that the Demon Spirit Realm had launched an attack on the Sky Demon domain. You're Ning Yu? The silence didn't last long, before it was broken by a voice. The martial artist who spoke was the old man sitting at the head of the hall. The old man sized up Ning Yu for a while before he spoke. Chapter 1548. Chapter 1548, Tribulation Crossing. Golden Pill Senior, you're being too serious. I'm just an initial phase 9th grade sovereign, and I didn't play much of a role. Ning Yu immediately stood up and cupped his fists towards the old man. Ning Yu knew his own limits. The reason why the Flower Palace could resolve the crisis was mainly because of Fairy Yun Shi and the rest. Although he had played a role in connecting the dots, it was impossible to resolve the crisis without Fairy Yun Shi and the other pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereigns. Haha, I'm not being too serious. The old man grinned and said, I remember that the palace master of the Flower Palace promised you that so long as you're able to help him deal with that expert at the Devil Spirit Realm, he'll allow you to choose a few things from the treasure pavilion of the Flower Palace. That was a joke in the past. Don't take it seriously. Ning Yu briefly hesitated before he continued, furthermore, I have enmity with the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan of the Thousand Leaves Empire. Part of the reason why they joined forces to attack the Giant Shield City was because of me. The reason why the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan sent heavenly sovereigns to the Giant Shield City was most likely because of what happened in the Nebula Academy. At that time, Ning Yu had single-handedly made the Emperor Divine Palace and the Jin family suffer heavy losses and lose face. With the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan's style, they definitely wouldn't ignore this enmity. So one could imagine that they couldn't kill him today and obtain the Tower of Ascension. In the near future, they would definitely send someone to kill him again. The Flower Palace will take care of the enmity between you and the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan. The old man waved his hand and spoke in a clear voice, I'll immediately spread the news that from now onward, you're the head guest elder of our Flower Palace. Anyone who dares to touch you is equivalent to declaring war against our Emperor Palace. Ning Yu was the main contributor to the Flower Palace's crisis, so the old man had to put on an act. Even if he couldn't help Ning Yu in the future, he had to put on an act at this moment. Our Flower Palace will definitely accomplish what we've promised. The old man stared at Ning Yu and continued. The Flower Palace suffered such a calamity, causing it to suffer heavy losses in magic treasures and medicinal pills. Now, only the 100 Flower Fan remains in its possession. As he spoke, the old man flicked his sleeve and threw the 100 Flowers fan at Ning Yu. Pa! Ning Yu's eyes shone with an astonishing light, and he hastily held the 100 Flower fan in his hand. At the same time, Ning Yu looked at the old man in disbelief. Strictly speaking, the 100 Flower fan might not be as strong as the Tower of Ascension, but in the Sky Demon domain, it was still one of the top magic treasures. Ning Yu had thought that the old man would casually give him a few treasures and send him away. Who would have thought that the old man would actually hand over such a heaven-defying magic weapon like the 100 Flower fan to him? Senior, the 100 Flower fan is too precious. Before he figured out what the old man was up to, Ning Yu did not want the 100 Flower fan. Ning Yu had seen a lot in his previous life about killing the donkey when it was no longer of any use. If the old man gave him the 100 Flower fan on the surface, but secretly sent someone to kill him, it would not be worth it. If you don't want the 100 Flower fan, you're looking down on me. The old man interrupted Ning Yu's words, and his face instantly turned cold. He said in a deep voice, if it wasn't for you, the Flower Palace would have fallen a long time ago, and I might not have made it out alive. All right. Seeing the old man's expression, Ning Yu took a deep breath and kept the 100 Flower fan. He still had to build his own force anyway. Although he had no use for the 100 Flower fan, it was a good reward for his subordinates. Your master Xingyun, a peak 9th grade pill refiner. Seeing Ning Yu take the 100 Flower fan, Xie looked at Master Xingyun and said, I want to ask you to help me refine a pill, I wonder if it's possible. What pill? Master Xingyun asked. Crossing Disaster Golden Pill, Xie said. What? Hearing Xie's words, not only Master Xingyun jumped up, but even Ning Yu jumped up. The Crossing Disaster Golden Pill was not an ordinary pill. It could be said that even in his previous life, Ning Yu would find it difficult to refine the Crossing Disaster Golden Pill. This was because the Crossing Disaster Golden Pill was not a 9th grade pill, but a 10th grade pill. Moreover, it belonged to the top level of 10th grade pills. In his previous life, the strength of Ning Yu's soul force had reached the realm of breaking through the Pill Emperor realm, but he had not broken through the last barrier to advance to the true Pill Emperor realm. Even a true Pill Emperor only had less than a 10% success rate in refining the Crossing Disaster Golden Pill. There's no way to refine it. Sigh, Forget it. I knew it would be like this. I just wanted to give it a try. Ningyu and Master Xingyun's reaction made Xie sigh. He waved his hand and said, "The crossing disaster golden pill is a 10th grade pill. I don't think even those old fellows in the Alchemy Union can refine it. The crossing disaster golden pill is an elixir that pinnacle heavenly sovereigns need to break through to higher realms. Could it be that Senior wants to break through to the Saint realm?" Ningyu said with a grave expression. Above the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm was the half-saint realm. Almost every pinnacle heavenly sovereign needed external help when they wanted to break through to the half-saint realm, such as the crossing disaster golden pill. Ningyu's guess was right. Xie wanted to use the crossing disaster golden pill to break through to the half-saint realm and extend his lifespan. Haha, you're smart. Xie smiled. I'm just saying. Don't take it to heart. After saying that, Xie closed his eyes slightly and leaned against the chair, beginning to rest. Seeing Xie's action, Grandmaster Xingyun and Fairy Yun Shi moved and left the conference hall. Of course, not everyone chose to leave. Ningyu was the only one that didn't leave. Creak. After Fairy Yun Shi and the rest left, the door of the conference hall was slowly pushed open. Rustle. At this moment, Xie suddenly opened his eyes and appeared in front of Ningyu in a flash. His eyes shone brightly as he hurriedly said, "Can you really cure the poison in my body?" Ever since he entered the conference hall, Ningyu had been paying attention to Xie. In the beginning, Ningyu couldn't determine the cause of Xie's injuries. But when Xie mentioned the crossing disaster golden pill, Ningyu finally understood. Poison. Xie must have been poisoned. Although the crossing disaster golden pill could help pinnacle heavenly sovereigns break through to the half-saint realm, not many people knew that it had another effect. It could increase one's lifespan. A single crossing disaster golden pill could extend one's lifespan by 60 years. Xie had used all his lifespan to resist the poison in his body, which meant that he only had 3 months left to live. Most importantly, Xie had to pay attention to the Gu poison in his body at all times. Once the Gu poison broke out, his last 3 months of life might even be halved. Chapter 1549. Chapter 1549, Establishment. I'm sorry, but with my current cultivation and soul force, I can't help you get rid of the poison in your body for the time being. Ningyu shook his head slowly and said, "However, I can think of a way to extend your lifespan." Hearing the first half of Ningyu's words, Xie's expression became extremely ugly and even revealed a look of disappointment. But after hearing the second half of Ningyu's words, Xie's eyes immediately lit up and he hurriedly said, "To tell you the truth, I only have 3 years left to live. If I can't get rid of the poison in my body within 3 years, it's very likely that the poison in my body will be completely nibbled away. Give me 1 year's time. After 1 year, I will extend your lifespan by 10 years. Since Xie didn't speak the truth, Ningyu wouldn't speak the truth either. Xie only had 3 months left to live, and this was under the best circumstances. Once the poison broke out, Xie would probably only have a little more than a month left to live. In any case, Ningyu wasn't in a hurry. If you don't tell me the truth, don't expect me to tell you the truth. Observing from such a close distance, Ningyu could basically conclude that Xie wouldn't dare to use force against him. In other words, as long as Xie dared to use too much energy, the poison in his body would immediately break out. And this was also the reason why Xie didn't kill Meng Quan and the others. He wanted to kill them in his heart, but he didn't have the strength to do so. Ningyu's words made Xie slightly embarrassed. A hint of determination flashed across his face, and he immediately said in a deep voice, "Ningyu, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, I only have 3 months left to live. If you can think of a way to help me extend my lifespan, then the position of Palace Master of 100 Flowers Palace will be yours. Senior, I don't want to be the Palace Master of 100 Flowers Palace because I've already decided to establish my own force." Ningyu grinned and said, "Become the Palace Master of 100 Flowers Palace?" He was probably going to be a puppet Palace Master. Being a puppet was not what Ningyu wanted. In any case, there were many elders of Nebula Academy, Grandmaster Nebula, Bloodthirsty Mad Wolf Bada, and many other bloodthirsty mad wolves hiding outside the city gate. In addition to the Golden Arowana Fish King and 30 to 48th grade Earth Sovereigns, Ningyu's force would definitely become one of the top forces in the Pill Formation continent. After all, in terms of fighting power, aside from Heavenly Sovereigns, Ningyu and the rest could sweep through any peak force in the Pellet Formation continent. You want to establish your own force? Xie was slightly stunned, and then his eyes spun as he said, Pill Completion continent is filled with all sorts of people, and the establishment of any single power will draw the attention of all the other powers. However, with our Flower Palace's protection, I presume no power would be foolish enough to act against all of you. Oh right, do you have a location to establish your force? How about I give Giant Shield City to you? From now on, Giant Shield City will be your headquarters, Xie said again. Thank you for your kindness, Senior. I've already chosen the location. As for Giant Shield City, you should keep it. Ningyu was stubborn and unmoved. I can tell that you're a smart brat. Xie pointed at Ningyu and continued, Speak, what do you want? Treasures, pellets, crystals, I will definitely give them to you as long as I have them. I do need Senior's help. Ningyu smiled. But it's not treasures, pellets, or crystals. I just want Senior to make a trip with me. Make a trip with you? Xie was puzzled. He had no idea what Ningyu was trying to do. That's right. How can I not have a top-tiered powerhouse when I want to establish my force? Ningyu nodded his head and continued, There's a rule in the Sky Demon domain. Whenever a supreme force is established, there will be other forces that will come to suppress it. At that time, I hope that Senior can unleash your aura to intimidate those fellows. Indeed, it's as I have guessed. You're waiting for me here. But let me be frank, I'm currently heavily injured. I can unleash my aura, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to make a move. Although he had promised Ningyu, Xie didn't want to make a move. His body was poisoned, and every time he made a move, his lifespan would be consumed. Xie didn't want to die so soon after he woke up in the forbidden area of the 100 Flowers Palace. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Ningyu was a little excited after hearing Xie's promise. He continued, On the day I establish my force, I will concoct a pellet with Grandmaster Xingyun. What we will concoct is a pellet that can extend one's lifespan by 60 years. The Jiaozi pellet. You know the recipe for the Jiaozi pellet? Xie's eyes lit up, his face was full of disbelief. The Jiaozi pellet could indeed extend one's lifespan by 60 years, but the recipe for the Jiaozi pellet had been lost hundreds of years ago. Even in the Sky Demon domain and the Sky Demon domain, it was hard to find someone who knew the recipe for the Jiaozi pellet. Ningyu actually knew the recipe for the Jiaozi pellet. How could Xie not be shocked? How could he not be surprised? I know the recipe for the Jiaozi pellet, but you need something very important to concoct it. I'm sure you don't have it. In order to prevent Xie from doing anything out of desperation, Ningyu had to reveal some useful information to Xie. What is it? As expected, Ningyu's words caught Xie's attention. Geocentric magma. Ningyu said solemnly. Geocentric magma? Xie was stunned at first, but then he understood. There was only one place in the Dan-Cheng continent that had geocentric magma. It wasn't a place of great danger, nor was it a forbidden area, nor was it a famous river. It was the Jin family of the Thousand Leaves Empire. All the top forces in the Dan-Cheng continent knew that the reason the Jin family could suddenly rise to power and dominate the Thousand Leaves Empire was because of the geocentric magma beneath their home. The center of the geocentric magma was naturally very dangerous. Even Sky Supremes couldn't get close to it. However, the area around the geocentric magma was a holy land for cultivation. Ordinary cultivators could cultivate around the geocentric magma with twice the results with half the effort. You want to attack the Jin family? Suddenly, Xie seemed to have thought of something and his face turned extremely shocked. After talking for so long, the location that Ningyu chose was the Jin family of the Thousand Leaves Empire. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse, and the Jin family had a heavenly sovereign. How could Ningyu fight with a heavenly sovereign? Jinbo, Jinyi, come out. Ningyu wanted the full support of the Flower Palace, and not Xiezi's one-sided support. Thus, he needed Xie to see his strength. If that's the case, then he might even be able to compete with the 100-Flower Palace after he established his force. Rustle. When Ningyu's voice landed, two silhouettes flew out of the Sovereign of Yu Pagoda and descended in the hall. Jinbo, Jinyi. Those two silhouettes were the ancestor of the Jin family, Jinbo, and the head alchemist of the Jin family, Jinyi. But at this moment, the two of them had ferocious expressions on their faces. Chapter 1550. Reaching an agreement, a heavenly supreme and a pinnacle 9th-grade alchemist. His perception swept over Jinbo and Jinyi, and Xiezi's eyes revealed a serious expression. Ningyu was only a 9th-grade human supreme, yet he could bring a heavenly supreme and a pinnacle 9th-grade alchemist with him. Could it be that Ningyu wanted to rely on these two to fight against the Jin family of the Thousand Leaves Empire? Xiezi didn't believe it. In Xiezi's memory, Jin Xinghai of the Jin family was an initial heavenly supreme a long time ago. After so long, if Jin Xinghai didn't die, he would definitely have reached the mid-heavenly supreme. Although the difference between an initial heavenly supreme and a mid-heavenly supreme was only a small level, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. It could be said that even 10 initial heavenly supreme might not be a match for a mid-heavenly supreme. Reality was just that cruel. Thinking of this, Xiezi wanted to remind Ningyu. However, before Xiezi could say anything, Ningyu took the initiative to introduce them. Pointing at Jinbo, Ningyu said, "This is the old ancestor of the Jin family, Jinbo, an initial heavenly supreme." Then, Ningyu pointed at Jinyi and said, "Jinyi, the chief alchemist of the Jin family. Her soul force has reached the level of liquefying." This, hearing Ningyu's words, Xiezi's eyes widened and his mouth was agape. His face was filled with shock. If the heavenly supreme and pinnacle 9th-grade alchemist were Ningyu's friends, Xiezi could still accept it. However, Jinyi and Jinbo were from the Jin family. Xiezi couldn't accept it. Ningyu was only a 9th-grade human supreme. How could he control two pinnacle experts of the Jin family? "I would like Senior to come with me to hold the line in attacking the Jin family." Ignoring Xiezi's shocked expression, Ningyu went straight to the point and said, "When the time comes, the sects that have a good relationship with the Jin family will definitely come to help. Senior, you only need to release a little bit of your aura. Leave the rest to me. Aren't you afraid that the Jin family has a mid-heavenly supreme? Jin Xinghai was an early-phase heavenly supreme many years ago, and there's a high chance that he's already a middle-phase heavenly supreme now." Xiezi was still a little worried. He only had 3 months left to live. If the Jin family counterattacked, he might die there. Therefore, to be safe, Xiezi didn't want to attack the Jin family with Ningyu. "It doesn't matter. Jin Xinghai is nothing to me." Ningyu displayed great confidence. The fact that Jin Xinghai was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu was something that very few people in the entire Pill Formation continent knew about. The Jin family, the Emperor God Palace, and the Rogue Cultivators Alliance had worked together to ban him. The joint efforts of the three powerful forces had sealed off almost all news about this incident. Those who weren't part of the organization wouldn't know that Jin Xinghai was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu. "Oh, you have a mid-phase heavenly supreme with you?" Xiezi was a little surprised to see Ningyu's confidence. There were only 2 reasons why he would be so shocked after hearing that the Jin family had a mid-phase heavenly supreme. First, Ningyu was a fool. Second, Ningyu had absolute confidence that he could deal with a mid-phase heavenly supreme. Xiezi carefully looked at Ningyu. He didn't think that Ningyu was a fool. If that was the case, it meant that Ningyu had absolute confidence in dealing with a mid-phase heavenly supreme from the Jin family. "I don't have a mid-phase heavenly supreme with me, but I'm sure that Jin Xinghai isn't in the Jin family right now." Xiezi didn't know that Jin Xinghai was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu, so Ningyu naturally wouldn't tell him. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. The moment Xiezi coveted his pagoda of Yuzu, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, it was best not to tell Xiezi about Jin Xinghai. "You're that sure?" Xie was still a little uncertain. After all, this concerned his life and death, so he had to consider it carefully. Ningyu knew what Xie was worried about, but he couldn't tell Jin Xinghai that he was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu, no matter what. Knitting his brows, Ningyu soon came up with a plan. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said, according to reliable sources, Jin Xinghai has left the Jin family to handle an important matter, and he won't be back for a while. If we leave now, it's our best chance. If we miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. All right, I'll go with you. After a brief pondering, Xie gritted his teeth and continued, but if you encounter a middle phase heavenly sovereign, I will only use my aura to intimidate the other party, and I will not fight with them. That's for sure, I understand. Ningyu nodded his head. Xie only had 3 months left to live, and every time he made a move, he would be heavily injured. Even if Xie wanted to make a move, Ningyu wouldn't let him. After all, in Ningyu's heart, Xie was the umbrella that would protect his force. At the very least, before Bada, Master Xingyun, and the rest reached the heavenly sovereign realm, Xie was a powerful deterrent that deterred others from going against them. Let's make some preparations first. One day, no, 3 hours from now. Initially, Ningyu wanted to lead the Golden Arowana Fish King and the rest to attack the Jin family a day later. But after thinking about it, a day's time might allow the Jin family to react and call their friends to defend the Jin family. In just an instant, Ningyu decided to set off in 3 hours to catch the Jin family by surprise. In 3 hours, the Golden Arowana Fish King should be able to recover to his peak state. As for Master Xingyun, Bada, and the rest, they wouldn't even need 3 hours to recover. Whoosh! Leaving those words behind, Ningyu left the conference hall. There were many things that needed to be done, and Ningyu had to inform the rest of them one by one to ensure that they knew the entire plan. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if something went wrong. How many secrets does Ningyu have? Looking at Ningyu's departing silhouette, Xie's face turned grave as he muttered, a 9th-grade human sovereign can have a group of 9th-grade Earth sovereigns following him. Could he be the pride of an ancient family? Buzz. Right at this moment, the space beside Xie suddenly split open. 2 silhouettes appeared on his left and right. Fairy Yunxi and the Palatial Lord. The moment they appeared, the Palatial Lord knitted her brows. Ancestor, the 100-flower fan is the ultimate treasure of our 100 Flowers Palace. Why do we have to give it to Ningyu? Our 100 Flowers Palace has many other treasures. Can't we just give one to Ningyu? Not only was the Palatial Lord confused, but even Fairy Yunxi couldn't understand. The 100-flower fan could allow a pinnacle 9th-grade Earth sovereign to confront a heavenly sovereign, and allow a pinnacle initial phase heavenly sovereign to take a few moves from a middle phase heavenly sovereign. Chapter 1551. Naming. What do you think? Xie didn't directly answer Fairy Yunxi and the Palace Master's puzzlement, and he said indifferently, "What do you think of Ningyu?" Ningyu is very mysterious. The Palace Master didn't know why Xie asked, but she still said, if it wasn't for his help, the Flower Palace wouldn't have been able to survive this calamity. From a friend's point of view, Ningyu is a rare friend, Yunxi replied. Pa. Xie suddenly clapped his hands and slowly stood up from the chair. Xie glanced at Fairy Yunxi and Palace Mistress Bai Hua before he said, "I won't hide it from you. I only have 3 months left to live, and Ningyu knows how to refine Jiaozi pills." As soon as the word pill fell, Xie's figure gradually became illusory and soon disappeared. This, Fairy Yunxi and the Palace Master exchanged a glance when they heard Xie's words. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. The reason why Fairy Yunxi and the Palace Mistress were so shocked wasn't because Xie could refine the Jiaozi pill, but because Xie only had 3 months left to live. The demon spirit realm had already taken over the central continent, and the second continent to attack was the pill formation continent. The Palace Master and the others had hoped that Xie could guard the Flower Palace, but now it seemed that Xie could only live for 3 months. The war was coming, and the sect didn't have a top powerhouse. The consequences were obvious. Yunxi, calculate how many cultivators the Flower Palace lost this time. The palace master took a deep breath and tried not to think too much. The Flower Palace had suffered heavy losses in this war. The palace master needed to gather cultivators as soon as possible. She couldn't let the Flower Palace decline because of this. Right, are the talisman supremacy and Yun Mu all right? The palace master seemed to have thought of something and asked hastily. Everyone else in the Flower Palace could die, but the talisman supremacy and Yun Mu couldn't. Yun Mu and the talisman supremacy's identities were very special, and they were inextricably linked to Xie Ziyi. In fact, Xie Ziyi was extremely respectful towards talisman supremacy and Yun Mu. Of course, very few people knew about this, and even a top-rate expert of the Flower Palace like Fairy Yun she didn't know about it. In the beginning, Palatial Lord Centaurea didn't know either. However, as the Palatial Lord of the Centaurea Palace, she had flipped through a book. The books clearly recorded that an ancestor of the Flower Palace cultivated the Samsara secret technique. This life just happened to be the time when that ancestor reincarnated. Coupled with Xie Ziyi's attitude towards Yun Mu, the palace master was practically certain that Yun Mu was the reincarnated ancestor of the Flower Palace. However, even if she knew about this, the palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace wouldn't alert the enemy. Once that ancestor recultivated and recalled the memories of his past lifetime, then the Flower Palace would welcome an unprecedented golden age. They're fine. Don't worry, Palace Master. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. As she spoke, Fairy Yun she moved her feet and left the assembly hall. Ning, you can concoct Jozi Dan? Jozi Dan is a heaven-defying pill that can increase a martial artist's lifespan by 60 years. Looking at Fairy Yun she's departing figure, the palace master frowned slightly and muttered. Swish. At the same time. City Lord's Estate, Giant Shield Pavilion. Ning Yu sat at the head of the Giant Shield Pavilion. Lu Wei, Supremacy Spirit Shu, Dan Guzi, the Sword of Evil, the Golden Arowana King, Grandmaster Zhao, Bada, Grandmaster Xingyun, and a group of martial artists who were close to Ningyu were all sitting on either side of Ningyu. I have something to announce. Ningyu's gaze swept across Lu Wei and the others, and then he said slowly, in a while, the Sky Demon region will be in chaos. Before that happens, I want to establish a force. Establish a force. Hearing Ningyu's words, the Golden Arowana King's face lit up with excitement. The Golden Arowana King was excited not because he wanted to establish a force, but because once his force was established, many people would help him find the ingredients for the Dragon Mark pill. The Dragon Mark pill was an extremely heaven-defying pill, and it required a lot of ingredients. Just relying on the Golden Arowana King himself would be very difficult to find in a short period of time. I raise both hands in approval. From now on, the entire Golden Arowana King clan will join you. The Golden Arowana King said loudly, setting an example. How can I be left out of establishing a force? The second to speak was Dan Guzi. Dan Guzi's life had been saved by Ningyu, so joining Ningyu's new force was only natural. I'll join too. Me too. Since you've all joined, I'll definitely join too. Next, the Sword of Evil, Sovereign Spirit Shu, Bada, and the others all announced that they would join Ningyu's force. Even Grandmaster Xingyun was willing to bring the people of Nebula Academy to join the forces established by Ningyu and become a branch academy. Thank you, everyone. Ningyu's eyes were slightly moist. He, a 9th grade human sovereign, had told a group of Earth sovereigns that he wanted to establish a force, and these Earth sovereigns had not even asked or hesitated before choosing to join. Ningyu would engrave this kindness in his heart. Sweeping his gaze across the crowd again, Ningyu suddenly felt that the burden on his shoulders had become much heavier. In his previous life, Ningyu had been a peak 9th grade alchemist and a peak 9th grade Earth sovereign, but he had not established a force. Who would have thought that in this life, he would establish his own force as soon as he reached 9th grade human sovereign? Moreover, the moment his force was established, it would immediately become a super force and become one of the top forces in the Dancheng continent. As long as there were sky sovereigns in the force, it would not be impossible for them to go against a colossus like the Emperor Palace. By the way, what's the name of our force? Just as Ningyu was in a daze, Lu Wei's words rang in Ningyu's ears. Ning Yu instantly reacted when he heard the words that came to his ears. Everyone, express your opinions. Let's see what the name of the force we're establishing should be. What's the name? Of course it's the Invincible Sect. The Golden Arowana Fish King said loudly, the force we're establishing will definitely be a sect. In the future, we'll recruit disciples and dominate the Dan Cheng continent and even the Sky Demon territory. The Invincible Sect sounds majestic no matter how you look at it. We'll use them to, hold on. Hearing the Golden Arowana Fish King's words, Ning Yu's face darkened. He hurriedly said, Invincible my ass. How about the Golden Dragon Sect? Alright, let's call it the Golden Dragon Sect. Hey, how did you think of this name? The Golden Dragon Sect is even better than the Invincible Sect. In my opinion, our force should be called the Golden Dragon Sect. I'll be the first sect master of the Golden Dragon Sect. Just give me any position. There's no need to be so particular. The Golden Arowana Fish King clapped his hands and cheered. However, he was slightly hesitant about the last position. In terms of strength, he was fully deserving of the title of Sect Master. Chapter 1552. Hall of Supreme, can you not add to the chaos? Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said, it's called the Golden Dragon Sect, but it's not as domineering as the Fish King Sect. The Fish King, not only represents you, but also represents the king of tens of thousands of fish. In the future, when tens of thousands of fish come to pay respects to you, doesn't it look like they're worshipping you? Achem. Hearing Ning Yu's words, the Golden Arowana Fish King's eyes lit up, his face filled with excitement. 10,000 Fish King, just the name itself sounded domineering. Why not call it Fish King Sect? It would be better to call it 10,000 Fish King. It was both domineering and unique. Ning Yu, I didn't expect you to be so literate. Let's call it 10,000 Fish King. I'm very satisfied with this name, the Golden Arowana Fish King said. What's the use of being satisfied? Ning Yu couldn't be bothered to waste words with the Golden Arowana Fish King. This guy was purely here to add to the chaos. Shifting his gaze, Ning Yu looked at Grandmaster Xingyun and asked, Grandmaster Xingyun, in your opinion, what should we call our force? Supreme Pavilion. Grandmaster Xingyun didn't say much, just 3 words. Whoosh. Although Master Xingyun only said 3 words, these 3 words won the unanimous approval of everyone. Supreme Pavilion is not bad. At least 1,000 times better than the Invincible Sect, Golden Dragon Sect, Fish King Sect, Fish Emperor Sect, etc. Bada didn't hide his thoughts at all. Let's call it Supreme Pavilion. I vote too. Supreme Pavilion is much better than the Fish King Sect. I agree too, let's call it the Supreme Pavilion. No objections. Sure. After Grandmaster Xingyun mentioned Supreme Pavilion, the Sword of Evil, Dan Guzi, Sovereign Spirit Shu, and even Ning Yu didn't have any objections. Supreme Pavilion did sound 1,000 times better than the Invincible Sect. You really don't know what's good for you. The Golden Arowana Fish King Sect protested. Invincible Sect, Fish King Sect, any of them is 10,000 times better than this stupid Supreme Pavilion. Even now, the Golden Arowana Fish King was still stubborn and wouldn't compromise. I don't think it's appropriate to call it the Supreme Pavilion. At this moment, Lu Ni, who had been silent all this time, shook his head and said, in the Great Xia Kingdom, there is a small force called the Supreme Pavilion. Since we are going to build a super force, we cannot clash with other people's names. This is troublesome. Ning Yu frowned slightly. He really hadn't expected this situation. Back in the Great Xia Kingdom, Ning Yu had visited the Supreme Pavilion and purchased some items. Now that he was going to establish a force, he definitely couldn't have the same name as the Supreme Pavilion. Suddenly, Ning Yu thought of a name. Supreme Hall. Ning Yu said in a clear voice. Supreme Hall? Hearing this name, Lu Wei and the others frowned slightly, and no one expressed their opinion. Strictly speaking, the Supreme Palace was about the same as the Supreme Pavilion. In fact, the Supreme Pavilion was slightly better. However, the Supreme Pavilion was already called out by a force, and their strength could not be the same as someone else's. Supreme Hall is fine, I agree. After a while, Lu Wei nodded and said, I agree too. Supreme Hall is indeed not bad, it can be the name of our force. Supreme Hall sounds domineering, it's a good name. Good name my *SS, it's not as domineering as the Fish King sect. Everyone agreed, except for the Golden Arowana Fish King, who rolled his eyes and was speechless. From what he knew, the Fish King sect and the Invincible sect were much better than Supreme Hall. However, he was also helpless against Ning Yu's arbitrary decision. Since no one has any objections, then it's decided. Our force will be called Supreme Hall. Ning Yu's tone suddenly became serious. Swoosh. As Ning Yu's tone changed, the temperature in the room seemed to have dropped by a few degrees. Everyone knew that Ning Yu was going to announce everyone's specific location in Supreme Hall. Supreme Hall currently has 4 branch halls. Fish King Palace will be led by the Golden Arowana Fish King. Wolven Kingdom will be led by Bada Nebula Palace will be led by Grandmaster Nebula. Pill Emperor Palace will be led by Dan Guzi. Sword of Evil, Reverend Lingshu, the 2 of you will stay in Pill Emperor Palace to help Dan Guzi. Ning Yu took a deep breath and explained the divisions of Supreme Hall, as well as the candidates for Hall Master. Among them, the Fish King Palace and the Wolven Kingdom were the protective umbrellas of Supreme Hall, responsible for the safety of the entire Supreme Hall. It could be said that the Fish King Palace and the Wolven Kingdom would not have any human cultivators joining them. They belonged exclusively to the Golden Arowana Fish King and Bada, and listened directly to Ning Yu. Nebula Palace was different. In the future, everyone who joined Supreme Hall would have to pass the Nebula Palace's test. The power and responsibility of Nebula Palace was very heavy. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Supreme Hall was the brain. Pill Emperor Palace was easy to understand. From now on, Supreme Hall's supply of medicinal pills would all be provided by them. Actually, Ning Yu wanted to build a formation hall at first, but he remembered that he was not very familiar with Grandmaster Zhao, so he decided to leave it for later. As for the Enforcement Hall and Assassination Hall, Ning Yu had not found suitable people for these divisions yet. He would wait until he found suitable people in the future. Not bad, not bad. Fish King Palace, just what I want. Hearing that Ning Yu wanted him to be the Hall Master of the Fish King Palace, the Golden Arowana Fish King instantly became arrogant. He raised his head and said, From now on, I am the Hall Master of the Fish King Palace. I will consider everything for the Fish King Palace. The Golden Arowana Fish King rolled his eyes and looked at Ning Yu with evil intentions. Grand Hall Master, you see that our Fish King Palace has nothing. Do you want to consider giving us some medicinal pills? The quality of the medicinal pills does not need to be too high. Fish Dizzy Pill and Dragon Mark Pill will do. Go, 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 go to the side. Ning Yu was infuriated by the Golden Arowana Fish King. Fish Dizzy Pill and Dragon Mark Pill were still ordinary medicinal pills. No matter which one it was, it would be difficult for him to refine them. As the saying went, even the cleverest housewife cannot cook without rice. He was currently in such a state. Grand Hall Master, we have established Supreme Hall. We need a place to settle down. We cannot stay in Giant Shield City anymore. Grandmaster Xing Yun had a clearer view of the situation. A big force had to act like one. If they were to stay in the city of another sect, how would that be? Therefore, finding a place to settle down was the most important thing now. I have thought about this. Everyone, get ready. We will go to the capital of the Thousand Leaves Empire in 3 hours. Ning Yu waved his hand, indicating that Grandmaster Xing Yun and the others did not need to worry. He said, also, Bada, leave Giant Shield City and bring your clansmen in. Although Giant Shield City was out of danger, dozens of bloodthirsty berserk wolves were still hiding outside the city. Bada was a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme. It would be best for him to search for them. Everyone, get moving. We will gather at the gate of Giant Shield City in 3 hours. After saying that, Ning Yu's figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. Ning Yu would not waste these 3 hours for no reason. Chapter 1553. Chapter 1553. Chapter 1553 Maple Leaf Forest. The Maple Leaf Forest was located to the west of Giant Shield City. It was about 10 minutes away from Giant Shield City. To the people of Giant Shield City, the Maple Leaf Forest was very ordinary. So ordinary that there wasn't a single beast inside. As for why there were no beasts inside, everyone had their own opinions. Some said that there was an extremely powerful beast deep within the forest that had reached the Sky Supreme realm. That was why the weaker beasts didn't dare to go near it. Others said that the Maple Leaf Forest was a dangerous place. No beast could stay there for more than an hour. There was even another rumor. It was said that there was a powerful martial artist suppressed beneath the Maple Leaf Forest. Every 3 years, the martial artist would howl like a ghost. Of course, these were all rumors. No one had ever confirmed it. Buzz buzz. At this time, at the entrance of the Maple Leaf Forest, the space suddenly split open, and a figure slowly walked out of the void. This figure was none other than Ningyu. After leaving Giant Shield City, Ningyu had rushed here without stopping. Come out. Ningyu took out the blue jade bracelet from his storage ring and threw it on the ground. Boom. At that moment, the blue jade bracelet shone brightly and Xieyi appeared before Ningyu. Maple Leaf Forest. Xieyi looked at the Maple Leaf Forest in front of him and his face lit up with excitement. However, the excitement on Xieyi's face was quickly concealed. My main body is inside the Maple Leaf Forest. Let's go in. Xieyi moved and was about to enter the Maple Leaf Forest. Before Xieyi could move a few steps, Ningyu waved his hand. Don't go in yet. You seem to know a lot about the Maple Leaf Forest. Tell me more about it and what's the story behind it. Hearing Ningyu's words, Xieyi had to stop. In front of Ningyu, Xieyi didn't dare to be too arrogant. After all, within Xieyi, there was a sliver of soul power. If Ningyu controlled that soul power, he could easily kill Xieyi's clone. This is just an ordinary forest. There's nothing special about it. Xieyi scratched his head and said, the reason why my main body chose to stay here is because this place is very ordinary and will not be disturbed by others. Really? Ningyu looked at Xieyi with interest, revealing a playful smile. Evil One was full of tricks and his words could not be trusted. Without a doubt, Xieyi did not tell Ningyu the truth. Of course, although he didn't tell the truth, Xieyi acted as if he was telling the truth. Slapping his chest, Xiewan said, my life is in your hands. Even if I have guts, I would not dare to lie to you. It's good that you didn't lie to me, Ningyu said calmly. Now, let your main body come out. I want to see him here. That's not very good, is it? My main body is currently cultivating the myriad embodiment technique. If I come out now, it's very likely that I'll fall short of success. Xieyi hesitated, not wanting his main body to come out. In fact, Xieyi even wanted to use the myriad embodiment technique to lure Ningyu away so that Ningyu would enter the Maple Leaf Forest. Humph. Ningyu scoffed and used his soul power to control Xieyi. Poochie. Ningyu had just used his soul power when Xieyi spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned white. Last chance. Ningyu could not be bothered to waste time with Xieyi. His tone was cold as he said, 3, 2. Alright, I'll let my main body come out. With what happened before him, Xieyi did not dare to talk back to Ningyu anymore. His life was in Ningyu's hands. If Ningyu really killed his clone, wouldn't he suffer a great loss? Xieyi waved his hands and even forced out a drop of blood to burn. Poochie. Very quickly, the blood was burned out. Rustle. Not long after Xieyi's essence blood was ignited, a powerful gust of wind howled out from the maple forest. Rustle. Not long after, 10 odd figures flew out from the Maple Leaf Forest and landed around Ningyu, surrounding Ningyu. This is your main body. Looking at the dozens of figures that suddenly appeared, Ningyu did not look too nervous. Stretching out his right hand, Ningyu pointed at the black-clothed cultivator at the front and said to Xieyi, his clone is a third-grade Earth Sovereign, so why is the main body only a first-grade Earth Sovereign? You are very bold, to even dare to control my doppelganger. Without waiting for Xieyi to reply, the black-robed warrior said coldly, I'll give you a chance to live. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Then, lick my toes. Otherwise, I'll let you know what cruelty is. Have you lost your mind? Ningyu was shocked. Not to mention whether the black-clothed cultivator was Xie Yi's main body, how could a first-grade Earth sovereign dare to speak to him in such a manner? Not only was the black-clothed cultivator a first-grade Earth sovereign, the rest were all pinnacle ninth-grade Earth sovereigns, and some weren't even first-grade Earth sovereigns. This formation was indeed a little weak. Initially, Ningyu had prepared a trump card. But now, it looked like he didn't even need to use it to kill the dozens of cultivators before him. You dare to say that I'm insane? I think you're tired of living. The black-clothed cultivator was on the verge of going insane as he roared, Go, go. No matter what, we have to kill this arrogant brat today. Xie Yi, I'll leave them to you. Ningyu took a few steps back and kicked Xie Yi's butt. Die. Xie Yi did not resist and followed Ningyu's instructions to join the battle. Fut, fut, fut. Xie Yi was, after all, a third-grade Earth sovereign. Against dozens of ninth-grade Earth sovereigns, he was naturally more than capable. A series of thudding sounds rang out. Under Xie Yi's powerful attacks, dozens of ninth-grade Earth sovereigns were quickly killed. Looks like my guess was right. Ningyu's attention was all on Xie Yi's right hand. Every time Xie Yi killed a pinnacle ninth-grade Earth sovereign, a cold ray of light would shoot out from his right palm and quickly enter the pinnacle ninth-grade Earth sovereign's body, then return within a second. Although this movement was extremely subtle, Ningyu's sharp senses still detected it. A long time ago, Ningyu had a bold guess. Xie Yi had lied to him. Xie Yi had risked entering Giant Shield City. Clearly, this body was his main body. As for those outside Giant Shield City, they were all clones. Now, it seemed like Ningyu's guess was right. If I devour all these clones, Xie Yi's cultivation should be able to rise to 4th grade Earth Supreme. Ningyu's face turned slightly solemn. He had left Giant Shield City to confirm if Xie Yi was the main body and then find a way to obtain the boundless embodiment technique. Chapter 1554. Chapter 1554. Chapter 1554 Expert's Attack. Poof. Poof. Xie Yi did not hold back and every single move he made was a killing move. Only 10 minutes had passed since Xie Yi had made his move. In just 10 minutes, dozens of pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereigns were killed by Xie Yi. It was so much so that even the black-clothed cultivators in the 1st grade Earth sovereign realm were brutally killed by Xie Yi. Boom. After killing dozens of cultivators, Xie Yi's aura soared into the sky. 4th grade Earth sovereign realm? Sensing the aura from Xie Yi, Ningyu was a little shocked. Although Ningyu knew that Xie Yi had reached the 4th grade Earth sovereign realm, Ningyu was still shocked that Xie Yi had reached the 4th grade Earth sovereign realm so quickly. Rustle. However, when Xie Yi had just reached the 4th grade Earth sovereign realm, dozens of silhouettes flew out from the maple forest. This time, the cultivators that appeared were all 1st grade Earth sovereigns with a 2nd grade Earth sovereign realm in the lead. Kill. Xie Yi stomped on the ground and swiftly charged out. After reaching the 4th grade Earth sovereign realm, Xie Yi's fighting strength had increased by a lot. Facing dozens of 1st grade Earth sovereigns, Xie Yi was fearless as he charged left and right. Poof, poof, poof. Under Xie Yi's powerful attacks, a 1st grade Earth sovereign would be killed every few seconds. Ningyu's eyes were sharp. Just like before, Xie Yi was still devouring those cultivators. If those dozens of 1st grade Earth sovereigns were devoured by Xie Yi, then his cultivation would definitely reach the 5th grade Earth sovereign realm. I'll see what you're trying to do. Although he had noticed Xie Yi's actions, Ningyu did not startle him. He pretended to be enjoying the show and even yelled at Xie Yi, "Don't mess with those useless things. I'll give you 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, I don't want to see any cultivators that can stand up. I don't need 20 minutes, 10 minutes is enough." Xie Yi turned around and smiled at Ningyu. Shortly after, he ignored Ningyu and frantically attacked the dozens of 1st grade Earth sovereigns. The facts proved that Xie Yi wasn't being arrogant. In 10 minutes, he had indeed killed dozens of 1st grade Earth Supremes. However, there was one thing that surprised Ningyu. After devouring so many 1st grade Earth sovereigns, Xie still hadn't advanced to 5th grade Earth Sovereign. His cultivation was still at 4th grade Earth Sovereign. Moreover, this time was a little different from before. After a full 5 minutes, no warriors came out of the maple forest. This situation not only shocked Ningyu, even Xie's mouth was slightly agape, a little dumbfounded. Did something go wrong? Xie was extremely nervous, and his entire body was shaking. If it weren't for the soul power that Ningyu had left in its body, evil would have already rushed into the maple forest. What happened? At that moment, Ningyu moved and walked towards Evil One. He said, "Call out all your clones in the forest." "I don't know why, but I've lost contact with my clones in the forest." Xie's face was grave as he continued, "In my opinion, we should enter the forest and see what's going on." "That's a good idea." Ningyu nodded his head. "But before we enter the forest, I hope that you can answer me." "What is it?" Xie asked. "It's time to tell me about the Myriad Freedom Transformation Art." Ningyu shrugged. "I know that this isn't your clone, but your main body." "Are you kidding me? How can I be the main body?" Xie's eyes flickered. He refused to admit that he was the main body. Before reaching the 5th grade Earth Sovereign Realm, Xie wasn't confident that he could expel the soul power from his body. That also meant that he still couldn't escape from Ningyu's claws. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Ningyu snorted coldly. His body flashed and he dashed towards Xie at a shocking speed. Boom! Raising his right leg, Ningyu kicked Xie's chest along with a terrifying gale. The huge force caused Xie to fly a few feet back, crashing into a huge tree that was as thick as his waist. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. The huge tree that was as thick as a person's waist was broken by Evil One. Rustle! The broken tree fell to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. "In the past, I didn't attack you because I wasn't sure that you were the main body. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to obtain the Myriad Freedom Transformation Art. But now that I'm sure that you're the main body, there's no need for me to hold back." Ningyu crossed his arms as he looked at Xie with interest. "You only have 2 choices. First, submit to me and tell me the Myriad Freedom Transformation Art. Second, die, and I'll use a secret technique to devour your memories." "I'm not willing." Xie stood up and wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth. "Just a little bit more. As long as there's another team of clones in the forest, I'll be able to advance to the 5th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. Once I advance to the 5th grade Earth Sovereign Realm, the soul energy you left in my body will be useless." Failure at the last step. Xie's current state could only be described as failure at the last step. No matter how much he calculated, he didn't expect that something would happen within the maple leaf forest. "It's too late to say anything now. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider." Ningyu shrugged his shoulders. 1. Go to hell. Xie flicked his wrist and threw the blue jade bracelet out when Ningyu said 1. Whoosh! The blue jade bracelet's speed was very fast, and it arrived in front of Ningyu in almost an instant. Explode! Along with Xie's roar, the blue jade bracelet exploded. "Not good, I've lost contact with Xie." The blue jade bracelet's explosion did not cause Ningyu to panic. The blue jade bracelet's explosion was at most equivalent to a 1st grade Earth Sovereign self-destruction. It was not enough to hurt Ningyu. But now that he had lost contact with Evil One, Ningyu panicked a little. However, the panic in Ningyu's heart quickly subsided. Ningyu realized that he could control Xie again. What's going on? After the blue jade bracelet's explosion dissipated, Ningyu turned to look at the maple leaf forest. I. Ningyu couldn't help but curse when he saw it. Xie stood on the spot, his face filled with despair. On his left stood a young martial artist. There were 2 old men standing on his right. Ningyu recognized the young martial artist. It was none other than Di Lingtian from the Emperor Palace. It was the law of space. The reason why Ningyu was surprised was not because of the spatial law, but because of the other 2 elders. As for the other 2 elders, they were both heavenly sovereigns. One was an early-stage Sky Supreme, the other was a mid-stage Sky Supreme. Haha, I can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find what I'm looking for. The early-stage Sky Supreme Elder smiled and locked his gaze on Ningyu. If you had stayed in Giant Shield City, we might have had to spend more effort to catch you. But now, you're our prisoner. Chapter 1555. Chapter 1555, Emperor Lin. Looking at the two heavenly sovereigns before him, Ningyu's face turned extremely unsightly. He had a trump card, but it wasn't of much use against a middle-phase heavenly sovereign. However, Ningyu did not choose to sit and wait. He opened the Yuzuan Pagoda and released the Emperor Palace's ancestor. As long as the Emperor Palace's ancestor was in his hands, Ningyu wasn't afraid of the middle-phase heavenly sovereign of the Emperor Palace doing anything to him. Release Di Shu, and I can spare your life. Seeing that Ningyu released Di Lingtian's master, the middle-phase heavenly sovereign coldly said, "Otherwise, I will let you know the meaning of cruelty." "I'm sorry, but I already know the meaning of cruelty. I don't need you to tell me." Ningyu raised his right leg and lashed it against Di Shu's knee. Boom. Boom. Di Shu couldn't help but kneel in front of Ningyu from the intense pain coming from his knees. Di Shu raised his head and looked at Ningyu with viciousness in his eyes. If gazes could kill, Di Shu would probably make a move against Ningyu. Di Shu's actions had angered Ningyu. Ningyu raised his right leg and lashed it against Di Shu's back, causing Di Shu to fall on the ground. At the same time, Ningyu's indifferent voice resounded, "You better behave yourself. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen." Ningyu's actions had caused the two heavenly sovereigns to have viciousness in their eyes. As the top experts of Emperor God Palace, they were ordered to come to Giant Shield City to save Di Lingtian's master, Di Shu. They thought it would be a piece of cake, but who would have thought that they would encounter trouble with Ningyu? Judging from Ningyu's performance, the two heavenly sovereigns knew that if they continued to force Ningyu, then Di Shu's life would be at stake. "Tell me, what will it take for you to release Di Shu?" The mid-stage Sky Supreme from God Emperor Palace was called Di Lin. He was one of the top 3 experts in God Emperor Palace. Now that he was bargaining with a 9th-grade human sovereign, Di Lin felt that he had lost all his face. Therefore, his tone was extremely cold. Di Lin secretly made up his mind that as long as he could save Di Shu, he would grind Ningyu's bones into ashes and cut him into 18 pieces. It's simple. A life for a life. Ningyu's expression had already regained its usual calmness. He said slowly, "Release Xie Yi, and I can consider releasing Di Shu, that useless piece of trash. What is the relationship between you and this person? Why are there so many cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest with auras similar to his?" If Ningyu had not mentioned Xie Yi, Di Lin would not have paid much attention to him. Di Lin was slightly surprised that Ningyu had mentioned Xie Yi. They had rushed here from God Emperor Palace and landed in Maple Leaf Forest at once. Who would have thought that they would encounter a large number of cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest? The auras of those cultivators were very similar to Xie Yi. At first, Di Lin and the others did not display their auras. Instead, they behaved like low-level human supreme masters. Since they seemed to be of low cultivation, the warriors in the Maple Leaf Forest attacked them one after another, trying to kill them. This situation naturally made Di Lin very angry. Therefore, without saying a word, Di Lin displayed his powerful strength and killed all the cultivators who surrounded them. Di Lin thought that he had killed all the cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest. He did not expect to see Xie Yi again. Moreover, Xie Yi's aura was very similar to the cultivators he had killed. This aroused his suspicion. Hearing Di Lin's words, Xie Yi's eyes widened and his face was filled with anger. If it wasn't for Di Lin, he would have devoured all of his clones and his cultivation would have reached the 5th-grade Earth Sovereign realm, expelling the soul energy in his body. Now, his doppelgangers had been killed by Di Lin and he had fallen into Di Lin's hands. If he had fallen into Di Lin's hands, Xie Yi might not have been so angry. Most importantly, Ningyu still controlled his life and could kill him at any time. This was awkward. On the surface, his life was in Di Lin's hands, but in fact, everything was in Ningyu's hands. In other words, if Ningyu wanted to, He could even make Xie Yi self-destruct. Oh, I didn't cause you any trouble, but you are glaring at me. Tell me, what is your relationship with the cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest? Di Lin raised his eyebrows and said gloomily, if you can't give me a reason, I might make a mistake and kill you too. I don't know them either. Xie Yi said without hesitation, Ningyu and I had just left Giant Shield City and were about to enter Maple Leaf Forest when we bumped into you. Xie Yi did not even frown when he said this. From this, one could see that Xie Yi's ability to lie had reached the pinnacle. You don't know them either. Xie Yi did not frown, but Di Lin did. Since you are not telling the truth, then I will have to kill you as well. As he spoke, Di Lin raised his right hand and punched towards Xie Yi's head with a violent gust of yuan qi. Di Lin did not use his full strength, but only 10% of his strength. However, as a middle phase heavenly sovereign, even if Di Lin had only used 10% of his strength, Xie Yi still couldn't withstand it. Ningyu, stop him. Seeing that Di Lin's fist was about to land on his head, Xie Yi quickly used his soul power to communicate with Ningyu. I can tell you the art of 1,000 transformations. How can I trust you? Ningyu asked calmly. He wasn't anxious at all. My life is in your hands. Why don't you trust me? Xie Yi said hurriedly. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Ningyu shrugged and did not comment. Damn it, I will tell you the first 2 phrases of the art of 1,000 transformations. Seeing that Ningyu did not fall for it, Xie Yi cursed under his breath. He then recited the first 2 lines of the incantation. Hearing Xie Yi's words, Ningyu's eyes lit up. He waved his hand and said to Di Lin, that's enough. Xie Yi is my man. If you dare hurt him, I will let Di Shu know what cruelty is. Shua. Hearing Ningyu's words, Di Lin's fist came to a stop. Very good. It looks like you have a good relationship with him. Di Lin's lips curled into a smile, we'll do as you say. Let's make a deal. I'll let him go and you let Di Shu go. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Ningyu's eyes widened. A 4th grade Earth Sovereign for an initial phase Heavenly Supreme. No matter how I look at it, it's a huge loss. Then what do you want? Chapter 1556. Chapter 1556. Chapter 1556 Devour. If that's the case, then you want to fight to the death with me. Di Lin's cold words did not affect Ningyu at all. Anyway, he had Di Shu on his side, so Di Lin wouldn't dare to take the risk. You think you're qualified to fight me to the death? Di Lin's face was gloomy, and there was a hint of viciousness between his brows. He said, if you dare to kill Di Shu, then our Divine Emperor Palace will go all out and flatten Giant Shield City. Ning, you didn't expect that Di Lin would threaten him with this. To be honest, Di Lin's threat of Giant Shield City had no effect at all. First of all, Giant Shield City belonged to the 100 Flowers Palace and had nothing to do with him. Secondly, the Supreme Palace that he had built was located in the Royal Palace of the Thousand Leaves Empire. Even if Di Lin really destroyed Giant Shield City, it would not affect him. I'll wait for you to flatten Giant Shield City. Ningyu shrugged, and then he grabbed Di Shu. His figure flashed as he flashed towards Giant Shield City. Ningyu was gambling. He was betting that Di Lin would not dare to act rashly. If he won the bet, he could successfully escape to Giant Shield City. If he lost the bet, he would just hide in the Ascension Pagoda and never come out. Damn it. Seeing Ningyu running away with Di Shu, Di Lin cursed under his breath and said coldly, follow them. Huala. Seeing Di Lin running, the early phase Heavenly Sovereigns and Law of Space exchanged a glance before they swiftly followed up. Xie Yi was grabbed by an early stage Sky Supreme and taken away. Master Xingyun, how is Master Zhao's formation going? Ningyu flew towards Giant Shield City while asking Master Xingyun about the situation. Actually, the moment Ningyu saw Di Lin, he had used a secret technique to contact Master Xingyun and asked him to inform Master Zhao to set up a formation outside Giant Shield City. Supreme Palace hadn't been established for long, so their first battle had to be beautiful. Ningyu only had one goal, which was to capture or kill Di Lin. As long as he could capture Di Lin, Ningyu dared to mobilize the entire Supreme Palace and go to Celestial Emperor Palace to do something big. Of course, everything was built on the premise that Di Lin was captured alive. If Di Lin escaped, the consequences would be unimaginable. Di Lin might even return to the Emperor Divine Palace to gather troops and interfere with the Supreme Hall's attack on the Jin family of the Thousand Leaves Empire. I need another half an hour. Master Xingyun replied. Right now, it was very lively outside Giant Shield City. Hundreds of martial artists were busy but orderly. Looking carefully, one could even see Fairy Yun Shi and Palatial Lord Centuria's figures. 10 minutes ago, Master Nebula found Palatial Lord Centuria and said that he wanted to set up an array formation outside Giant Shield City. As long as the array was completed, even a middle phase heavenly sovereign wouldn't be able to pass through. Ningyu had helped the Flower Palace so greatly, so the palace mistress of the Flower Palace naturally wouldn't refuse a small request from him. That was how this scene came to be. Hundreds of martial artists were busy. All sorts of origin crystals and materials were placed around according to Master Zhao's instructions. The array that Master Zhao had set up was called the Ternary Array. Rumor had it that the Ternary Array was extremely powerful. Even a middle phase heavenly sovereign who accidentally stepped into the Ternary Array might die inside. Half an hour. Looks like I'll have to walk around. Hearing that it would take half an hour, Ningyu took a deep breath and started shuttling around Giant Shield City with Di Lin. Originally, they were only 10 minutes away from Giant Shield City, but Ningyu had dragged them for more than 20 minutes. They still hadn't reached Giant Shield City. We can't go on like this. Di gang, go to Giant Shield City and see what's going on. I'll continue to follow Ningyu. Di Lin was indeed one of the top few martial artists in Celestial Emperor Palace. After 20 minutes, he realized the severity of the problem. There had to be a reason for this. For Ningyu to bring them around Giant Shield City in circles, there had to be some kind of scheme. Even though Di Lin was a middle phase heavenly supreme, he was still wary of Ningyu. After all, Ningyu could even control an early phase heavenly supreme like Di Lin. If he had a scheme, it wouldn't be impossible for him to control Di Lin. Yes. Hearing Di Lin's words, Di gang didn't waste any more time. He turned around and flew towards Giant Shield City. Since Di gang had gone to Giant Shield City, the task of controlling Xie Yi naturally fell on Spatial Law. Grade 1 Earth Supreme? If Di gang was around, Xie Yi wouldn't dare to do anything. But now that Di gang had left and a Grade 1 Earth Supreme was controlling him, Xie Yi's mind immediately became active. He even wanted to kill Spatial Law and leave. Xie Yi wasn't an indecisive person. He immediately attacked and threw a surprise punch at Spatial Law's chest. Even a Grade 3 Earth Supreme might not be able to block this punch of mine. Eat my punch, you're still not dead. The fist landed on the Space Law's chest. Xie Yi's face was filled with joy. He immediately opened up his Space Law body and dashed away. The reason why Xie Yi dared to run with Ningyu on his back was because he was far away from Ningyu. If he ran now, Ningyu definitely wouldn't be able to catch up. The second reason was that Xie Yi had already found a way to break the soul power in his body. As long as he could escape, he would definitely be able to regain his freedom. Is that so? But reality made Xie Yi's jaw drop, his face full of shock. Taking on Xie Yi's punch, Spatial Law didn't suffer too much damage. Xie Yi's punch might have been able to heavily injure Di Lingtian, or even kill him, but it wasn't suitable to deal with Spatial Law. After all, Spatial Law was a Grade 4 Earth Supreme and was only possessing Di Lingtian. You're still thinking of escaping after falling into my hands? I think you're tired of living. Spatial Law's eyes flashed with a cold light as he waved his hands and slapped Xie Yi's body. Sizzle. Without a doubt, Spatial Law was hungry again. A powerful devouring force continued to devour Xie Yi. Xie Yi was originally a Grade 4 Earth Supreme, but after being devoured by Spatial Law, his aura started to fall. Pinnacle Grade 4 Earth Supreme, Late Grade 4 Earth Supreme, Middle Grade 4 Earth Supreme, Third Grade Earth Supreme. In just a few minutes, Xie Yi's aura had fallen from Pinnacle Grade 4 Earth Supreme to Third Grade Earth Supreme. Furthermore, Xie aura was still falling. Arg! Feeling his aura falling, Xie wanted to cry. Now that he was so far away from Ningyu, he couldn't contact Ningyu even if he wanted to. Therefore, they could only grit their teeth and swallow the bitter pill. They could only suffer in silence, unable to voice their bitterness. Who are you? Why are you pretending to be a Grade 1 Earth Supreme? Chapter 1557. Chapter 1557. Chapter 1557 Formation Arrangement. Ha ha ha. The Law of Space seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He threw his head back and laughed maniacally, then said coldly, "I'd like to see how you'll perish together with me. This is infuriating." Xie's lungs were about to explode. He had lost his mind. The current Xie could only be described as having lost his mind. Originally, he thought that since Ningyu couldn't control himself, it was the best opportunity to escape. Who would have thought that not only would they not be able to escape, they would also have to face disaster. If this went on, his aura would drop to the first-grade Earth Supreme Realm in a few minutes, or even to the Human Supreme Realm. I have to think of something. Xie rolled his eyes, trying his best to think of a solution. However, no matter how hard Xie tried, he could not escape from the claws of the space laws. With such a good opportunity, the law of space naturally would not waste it. It's really like someone sends you a pillow when you're sleepy and food when you're hungry. The law of space chuckled. He was a fourth-grade Earth Sovereign, and as long as he devoured Xie, it wouldn't be impossible for him to reach the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign realm. If he could reach the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign realm, then he wouldn't be in a disadvantageous position when competing with the sapling. Otherwise, all the good stuff would be taken by the sapling, and he would only get some leftovers. You can't devour me. I know the boundless embodiment transformation. As long as you don't devour me, I can tell you the boundless embodiment transformation. Xie, who had lost his mind, was naturally capable of anything. In fact, evil had even used the myriad free transformations great art to attract the spatial laws. What the hell is the myriad free transformations? Sadly, space rules did not fall for Evil One's tricks. He blinked and said, "Don't bother with all this nonsense. If you can give me some energy, I can consider letting you go. If not, you will go to hell." Evil One looked at Yi Futian. Damn it. Xie cursed again. He cultivated the 10,000 freedom transformations and used up all of his energy. This requirement of spatial laws, he really could not do it. I can tell you a secret about Ningyu. Xie was already desperate, biting anyone he saw. After the myriad embodiment technique failed to attract the spatial laws, he began to bite Ningyu like a mad dog. If you can know this secret of Ningyu, I can guarantee that you can save your master Di Shu. Xie didn't know that the spatial law was Di Lingtian. In his mind, he was talking to Di Lingtian, and Di Lingtian and Ningyu had enmity. Peddling Ningyu's secrets in front of Di Lingtian was not a big problem no matter how one thought about it. Seeing the agreement, the law of space slapped him on the cheek and said, "What secrets does Ningyu have? Does it have anything to do with me?" The answer from the space law made Evil One dumbfounded. Why don't you think about saving your master when he's being controlled by Ningyu? Cut the crap. I'll ask you one last time. Do you have any energy for me? The space law impatiently asked. Well, I really don't. Xie said helplessly. If you don't, then stop wasting time. The space law waved his hands and slapped Xie's body again. Whoosh. Terrifying energy flowed into his body through the space law's palms. In just a few minutes, Xie's aura had fallen to the second-grade Earth Supreme Realm. As for the law of space, it had reached the pinnacle fourth-grade Earth Sovereign Realm, just a step away from the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign Realm. I'm sorry. The space law shrugged and increased the devouring power. Whoosh. A minute later, Xie spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura dropped to the 9th grade, similar to Ningyu's. Bang! Not long after Xie's aura dropped to the 9th grade, a muffled sound came from the space law's sea of consciousness. Boom! Then, the space law's aura shot into the sky. 5th grade Earth Supreme. After devouring Xie's terrifying energy, His law of space cultivation rose from 4th grade Earth Supreme Realm to 5th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Not bad. Feeling the density of the energy in his body, the space law nodded in satisfaction. Let's go. After reaching the 5th grade, the space law didn't stay here. Following Ning Yu's instructions, he took Xie Yi and ran towards the giant shield city. Xie Yi couldn't contact Ning Yu, but the space law had a way. The spatial law brought Xie Yi along and disappeared in an instant. At the same time, on the other side, Di Lin released his powerful aura and locked onto Ning Yu. He said coldly, "If you dare to take another step, I will kill you." Whoosh. Hearing Di Lin's words, Ning Yu stopped in mid-air. "Tell me, what do you want?" Seeing the change in Di Lin's expression, Ning Yu had a bad feeling. When things reached an extreme, they would move in the opposite direction. If Di Lin was forced into a corner, he would attack at all costs. Ning Yu knew this very well. Therefore, he communicated with Master Xing Yun of the Giant Shield City while dealing with Di Lin. Once the formation in the Giant Shield City was set up, Ning Yu would immediately return to the Giant Shield City. "Hand over Di Shu and I will spare your life. Otherwise, I will cut you into pieces, burn your bones and scatter your ashes." Di Lin didn't hide the coldness in his eyes. "You are only a 9th grade human supreme. Fighting with me won't end well. I know fighting with you won't end well. But if you dare to attack, I will kill Di Shu immediately." Ning Yu took out the red demon sword and placed it on Di Shu's neck. "You can try if you don't like it. You're courting death." Di Lin couldn't hold back his anger any longer. Stepping in the air, Di Lin dashed towards Ning Yu. "Retreat." Seeing Di Lin rush out, Ning Yu's eyes turned serious. Grabbing Di Shu, Ning Yu burned his blood essence and started to escape. Just a moment ago, Master Xing Yun told Ning Yu that the formation was set up and that the other Sky Supreme expert of the Emperor Palace was trapped. This news made Ning Yu very excited. Since the formation was set up, the next thing to do was to lure Di Lin into the formation. Fortunately, this place wasn't too far from the formation. Otherwise, Ning Yu wouldn't dare to fall out with Di Lin so quickly. Swoosh, swoosh. Ning Yu and Di Lin, one in front of the other, flew at high speed. Because Ning Yu burned his blood essence, it only took 3 seconds for Ning Yu to teleport to the gate of the Giant Shield City. He was only 1 step away from the formation. Stop! Di Gang was trapped in the formation. Seeing Di Lin so close to Ning Yu, Di Gang immediately shouted. The current situation was very clear. If Di Lin continued to attack, even if he could kill Ning Yu, he would be trapped in the formation. Chapter 1558. Chapter 1558. Chapter 1558 Ternary Formation. What happened? Di Lin, who had been chasing after Ning Yu at full speed, suddenly heard a loud roar, which made him a little confused. Di Lin knew very well that it was Di Gang who had spoken. In Di Lin's memory, he had sent Di Gang to the Giant Shield City to investigate. Why did Di Gang warn him? At the thought of this, Di Lin looked toward the city gate of Giant Shield City. Hiss! Di Lin sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what was inside. Outside the city gate, Di Gang floated in the air. His aura was at its lowest. At this moment, even a true martial realm martial artist could easily kill Di Gang. Today, I will flatten Giant Shield City. Di Gang's miserable state caused Di Lin's expression to turn extremely ugly. One must know that Di Gang was a genuine heavenly supreme powerhouse, one of the upper echelons of the Divine Emperor Palace. Now, Di Gang's aura had fallen to rock bottom, and he might even die. If Di Gang was killed here, it would be a great loss to the Emperor Divine Palace. In fact, even he could not absolve himself from the blame. After all, he had come here with Di Gang. Not only had he failed to accomplish his mission, but even Di Gang had been killed. He would not be able to bear the consequences. Di Lin's eyes turned bloodshot at the thought of this. There's a formation here, you must not. Seeing Di Lin's blood-red eyes, Di Gang hurriedly said. Die. However, how could a furious Di Lin listen to Di Gang's advice? Terrifying vital qi appeared around his ankles and began to burn rapidly. Kai Kai. The rapidly burning yuan qi caused Di Lin's speed to increase by several times. Di Lin, who was not far away from Ningyu, directly caught up with Ningyu after this acceleration. Clenching his right hand into a fist, Di Lin threw out a punch that brought up a strong gust of wind towards Ningyu's head. Di Lin's idea was simple. He wanted to blow up Ningyu's head and swallow his primordial spirit. Whoosh! What happened next caused Di Lin to be a little stunned. His fist did hit Ningyu's head, but it went through Ningyu's head. Afterimage? Di Lin reacted quickly. Almost in an instant, he determined that the Ningyu in front of him was an afterimage. Shio. On the other side, Ningyu's body gradually appeared. Dai. Seeing Ningyu's real body, Di Lin dashed out again. Di Lin had already made up his mind. No matter what, he would send Ningyu to hell today. Facing Di Lin, who was charging towards him, Ningyu stood his ground with his arms crossed in front of his chest. The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. He wasn't running away. Even though Di Lin was fast and had reached the mid-heavenly supreme realm, Ningyu was fearless. Something's wrong. Seeing that Ningyu didn't respond, Di Lin's heart raced. He felt that something was wrong. However, Di Lin's worry was soon overshadowed by his raging killing intent. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at Ningyu's head with a violent primordial qi gale. This time, Di Lin's judgment was correct. The Ningyu in front of him was not an afterimage, but the real Ningyu. You're going to die this time. Di Lin could almost see Ningyu's miserable state when he was killed by him. He couldn't help but reveal a devilish smile. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, 3 huge primordial qi light pillars suddenly appeared in front of Ningyu. The primordial qi light pillars didn't stop and immediately charged at Di Lin. I knew something was wrong. Di Lin immediately gave up on attacking Ningyu. Instead, he threw out 2 more punches, which collided with the 3 yuan qi light pillars. Kai, Kai, Kai. Di Lin was indeed a mid-heavenly supreme. The 3 punches he threw out shattered the 3 yuan qi light pillars at the same time. Ha ha ha, do you really think you can kill me with these random attacks? Di Lin let out an angry roar after destroying the primordial qi light pillars. Today, I'll teach you a lesson. In the face of absolute power, all tricks are useless. Break. Di Lin went crazy and tried to break the ternary formation. Di Lin used all kinds of terrifying spells and attacked the ternary formation around him. Master Zhao, how long can your ternary formation trap Di Lin? Ningyu asked as he looked at Di Lin, who kept attacking the ternary formation. A few martial artists appeared next to Ningyu. Master Xingyun, Master Zhao, Golden Arowana King, Bada, Fairy Yun Shi, and Palace Master Bai Hua. Hearing Ningyu's words, Master Zhao said in a deep voice, it can trap a mid-heavenly supreme martial artist for about 3 hours. 3 hours? Ningyu frowned slightly and started to think of a countermeasure. Di Lin was a mid-heavenly supreme. Even if the ternary formation could trap him for a short time, it couldn't defeat him like Di Gang. In other words, within these 3 hours, Ningyu had to think of a way to deal with Di Lin. Otherwise, when the ternary formation was broken, the entire Giant Shield City would be plunged into misery and suffering. After all, there wasn't a single person in Giant Shield City who could fight against a mid-stage Sky Supreme. Can we keep him in the Tower of Ascension? Seeing Ningyu's expression, Grandmaster Xingyun couldn't help saying, even heavenly sovereigns like the God Emperor Palace's ancestor and the Jin clan's ancestor can be imprisoned in the Tower of Ascension. In my opinion, Di Lin can also be imprisoned in the Tower of Ascension. The Emperor Palace ancestor and the Jin family ancestor are only early heavenly sovereigns, and they're already under control. It's not a problem to keep them in the Tower of Ascension. Ningyu shook his head. Di Lin is different. The ternary formation can only trap him, not control him. There's only one way to keep him in the Tower of Ascension, and that's to control him. Hearing Ningyu's words, Master Xingyun and the rest fell silent. To control a middle-stage heavenly supreme? That was an almost impossible task. Strictly speaking, Di Shu and Jin Bo's strength was only sealed, and they weren't under their control. They could control their lives, but they couldn't order them to do anything. It was already so difficult to control an early Heavenly Supreme, and now they wanted to control a mid-Heavenly Supreme? Wasn't that a fool's dream? It's not like there's no way. Seeing the dejected look on Master Xingyun and the rest, Ningyu said, as long as we can heavily injure Di Lin, with the help of the few of you, we can definitely control him. The most important thing is how to heavily injure Di Lin. The Golden Arowana King said with a solemn expression. At this time, even the usually talkative Golden Arowana King became silent. No one was clearer than him about the destructive power of a mid-stage Heavenly Supreme. In the past, an early Heavenly Supreme Golden Arowana King had appeared in the Golden Arowana King clan. At that time, that Golden Arowana King ruled over a large area of the Ruoshui River, forcing the other Golden Arowanas to lose their footing. In the end, one Golden Arowana King swallowed a medicinal pill and temporarily raised his cultivation to mid-Heavenly Supreme. In just one move, that early Heavenly Supreme Golden Arowana King was killed. As far as the Golden Arowana King knew, a mid-Heavenly Supreme of the human race couldn't be compared to the Golden Arowana clan, but a mid-Heavenly Supreme of the human race definitely had terrifying destructive power. Chapter 1559. Trap. I told you, it's not like there's no way. Ningyu's face was extremely solemn. He looked at Fairy Yunxi and said, Tuorhi is a demon spirit realm initial stage Sky Supreme. As long as we throw him into the ternary formation and control him to self-destruct, I don't believe that Di Lin can withstand it. Whoosh. Ningyu's words made Fairy Yunxi and the rest's faces turn ugly. Make a Sky Supreme self-destruct. This was the city gate of Giant Shield City. The self-destruction of a Sky Supreme would definitely affect Giant Shield City. By then, even if Giant Shield City wasn't blasted into ruins, it wouldn't be far from it. I object. Fairy Yunxi said without hesitation. A Sky Supreme self-destruct is a serious matter. We can't make a rash decision. I need to discuss this with the old ancestor. As she spoke, Fairy Yunxi's figure flashed and she entered Giant Shield City. Suit yourself. Ningyu shrugged. He wasn't in a rush. There were still 3 hours before Di Lin broke the ternary formation. In these 3 hours, Ningyu had another thing to do. Law of space, bring Xie over. Ningyu's mind stirred, and he started to connect with the laws of space. Whoosh. As soon as Ningyu's voice landed, the law of space moved and appeared with Xie Yi. Di Lingtian. Grandmaster Xingyun and the rest's faces changed when they saw the law of space. They immediately surrounded the law of space. As soon as Ningyu gave the order, the law of space would be blasted into a pile of sand. Hey, don't be like this. I might be Di Lingtian, but I've already forsaken the darkness for the light. The law of space wouldn't expose the fact that it was the law of space. He quickly waved his hand. Di Lin and Di Gang, those two trash, actually want to go against the gods. I think they must be tired of living. Cut the crap. Toss Evil One over to me. Then, you obediently squat on the other side. Ningyu did not want to talk nonsense with the law of space. His time was limited. In 3 hours' time, he had to force out the cultivation method of Evil's myriad incarnations. Ningyu made up his mind. If Evil One refused to speak, he would use a secret technique to devour his memories. If it was before, Ningyu would not have dared to swallow Xie Yi's soul power. After all, Xie Yi was a peak expert of the Pill Puppet clan. It was only because he cultivated the 1,000 freedom transformations that his strength had dropped. As long as he was given a chance, he would definitely be able to make a comeback. Master Xingyun, I need you to use your soul power to suppress Xie Yi. I want to devour his memory. Ningyu did not want to beat around the bush, so he said to Master Xingyun directly, without my permission, do not let Evil One use his soul power. No problem. Master Xingyun nodded. In his opinion, using soul power to control Xie Yi wasn't a big deal. But Ningyu's next words made Master Xingyun's face turn serious. Ningyu turned to the golden arowana fish king and said solemnly, "Seal Xieyi's yuan qi. Remember, do not let him use any of it." Roger. Although he had many questions, he knew that he only needed to follow Ningyu's instructions. There was no need to ask anything else. "Master Zhao, I will give you an hour to set up a soundproof array." Ningyu looked at Master Zhao and said in a low voice, "No problem." The moment Ningyu's voice fell, Master Zhao started to get busy. Setting up a soundproof array was not a problem for Master Zhao. He only needed a few minutes to set it up. But looking at Ningyu's serious face, Master Zhao knew that the soundproof array Ningyu needed was special. Other than Ningyu and Xieyi, no one else could hear it, including himself. Swish, 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 swish. With Ningyu and Xieyi in the center, Master Zhao began to focus on setting up the soundproof array. Time always passes unknowingly. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. In this hour, Master Zhao only did one thing. That was to set up a soundproof array for Ningyu. Done. After an hour of work, Master Zhao finally set up the soundproof array. Very good. Ningyu slightly unleashed his perception and then nodded, expressing his satisfaction. With Ningyu's current strength, he could not set up a soundproof array that could block out Sky Supremes. However, Grandmaster Zhao was different. His strength was a whole level higher than Ningyu's. Naturally, he could set up a formation that could isolate Sky Supremes. Let's begin. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu looked at Xieyi and said, "Tell me the chant for the art of infinite transformation and I will spare your life. I will let you be my follower. Don't even think about it." Xieyi was furious and shouted, "Even if I self-destruct, I won't tell you. Just wait for the 1,000 free embodiment technique to disappear with me." "Hehe, that's not up to you." Smiling faintly, Ningyu unleashed his powerful soul power and entered Xieyi's mind. Ningyu's method was simple. He was devouring Xieyi's memories. The intense pain in his mind caused Xieyi to go crazy, and a hysterical scream came from his mouth. Evil One wanted to resist, but his soul power and yuan qi were being controlled. Right now, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He wanted to, but he didn't have the strength. Poochie. Looking at Ningyu devouring his memories, Xieyi was so angry that he spat out blood, his face green. "I gave you a chance. You didn't know how to cherish it." Ningyu shrugged and continued to devour. Xieyi was the absolute hope of the Pill Puppet clan, and his position in the clan was extremely high. After devouring a portion of Xieyi's memories, Ningyu learned many secrets. This included the stronghold of the Pill Puppet clan in the Sky Demon region, where there were more pill puppets, and where their resources were stored. All of this information was kept by Ningyu. As for the trivial things in Xieyi's life, Ningyu chose to filter them out. Or else, Xieyi's memories were enough to turn Ningyu into an idiot. The art of infinite transformation is indeed powerful. Each clone is a part of my life, an experience. Ningyu was secretly relieved. Luckily, he had lived 2 lives and his brain was bigger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to handle all of Xieyi's memories. Found it. After a full 10 minutes, Ningyu finally found useful information in Xieyi's memories. Decades ago, Xieyi obtained the art of infinite transformation. As for how he obtained it, even Xieyi's memories were blurry. If Xieyi himself didn't know, then Ningyu definitely wouldn't know. The main character is here. Suddenly, Ningyu's face was filled with ecstasy. Chapter 1560. Red Devil's request. The art of boundless embodiment had 3 stages. The first stage was the beginner stage, also known as the beginner stage. As long as one could cultivate 100 doppelgangers and use a special method to devour them, then one would have succeeded in the beginner stage. The second stage was the 10,000 stage. This stage was easy to understand. In other words, one had to cultivate up to 10,000 doppelgangers and be able to control each doppelganger's movements. This stage was extremely difficult to cultivate. Throughout history, the number of martial artists who had successfully cultivated this stage could not be counted on one hand. As for the third stage, it was even more terrifying. Embodiment transformation. The third stage was called embodiment transformation, also known as embodiment transformation. The literal meaning was hard to understand, but Ningyu was very clear. Embodiment transformation was to condense thousands of doppelgangers into 3 doppelgangers. One represented the past, one represented the present, and one represented the future. The most heaven-defying part of the embodiment transformation was the future doppelganger. Because in the past, Ningyu's strength was weaker. Now, Ningyu's strength was not strong either. Although the future was full of variables, the future doppelgangers formed by the art of boundless embodiment would be much stronger than they were now. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as insane and terrifying. Each stage is harder than the last. No wonder Xie Yi couldn't even complete the first stage. After devouring Xie Yi's memories, Ningyu took in a deep breath. The art of boundless embodiment transformation was a synonym for terrifying. From Xie Yi's memories, Ningyu also learned a terrifying truth. Out of 10,000 peerless geniuses who cultivated the myriad embodiment technique, only a few could successfully cultivate the first stage. As for the second stage, there were only 3 in history. However, not a single one had reached the final stage of cultivation. At least from Xie Yi's memories, Ningyu did not find any clues. Xie Yi, I'm giving you one last chance. Submit to me. Ningyu did not kill Xie Yi immediately. Instead, he retracted his soul power and said, as long as you submit to me willingly, I can consider letting you live. I. Xie Yi sat on the ground like a dead dog. His breathing was weak and his eyes were dim. Having one's memories forcibly devoured by someone else was extremely damaging to one's body. Even if Xie Yi was a 4th-grade Earth sovereign, he couldn't bear it. What? You don't want to submit to me? Looking at Mo Yang, Ningyu frowned. Since you don't want to submit to me, I will send you to hell. Actually, Ningyu really wanted Xie Yi to stay. Because Xie Yi was the king of the Pill Puppet Clan, his position in the Pill Puppet Clan was extremely high. In the future, he would definitely encounter experts from the Pill Puppet Clan. When the time came, he could use Evil One as his trump card. It would definitely have an unexpected effect. However, even though Ningyu didn't want to kill Xie Yi, if Xie Yi didn't do anything, Ningyu would have to kill him. As the saying goes, weeds will grow again if the roots are not removed. Ningyu wanted to keep Xie Yi, but he didn't want to keep a troublemaker like Xie Yi. I choose to submit to you. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to kill him, Xie Yi roared with all his might. Xie Yi wasn't a fool. Only by staying alive would he have a chance of survival. Now you want to submit to me? It's too late. Ningyu shrugged and flicked his wrist. In an instant, the red demon sword appeared in his hand and he slashed at Xie Yi's head. Wait. However, before the red demon sword could land on Xie Yi's head, an anxious voice entered Ningyu's ears. Hearing this, Ningyu immediately stopped. The one who spoke was none other than the red demon sword. In this period of time, the red demon sword had been hiding in the red demon sword. At first, Ningyu thought that the red demon sword was hiding in the red demon sword because of his and the Dark Emperor's rapid increase in strength. But recently, Ningyu realized that the red demon sword was hiding not because of his inferiority, but because he was doing something big. After the relentless efforts of the red demon sword, he finally broke through the entire red demon sword. One had to know that Ningyu had entered the space within the red demon sword before. At that time, Ningyu discovered that there were several spaces within the red demon sword, and there seemed to be a secret in the deepest part. But since then, Ningyu didn't have the time to investigate, so the matter was left unsettled. Some time ago, after the red demon sword's strength increased, he began to open up the space within the red demon sword. Who would have thought that after a period of hard work, the space within the red demon sword was actually opened up by the red demon sword? Why, is Xie Yi useful to you? Ningyu's mind shook as he began to communicate with the red demon. I discovered that in the deepest part of the red demon sword, there is an ancient array. In front of the array, there is a stone tablet. There are 2 words carved on the stone tablet. Taking a deep breath, the red demon said in a low voice, Dan Kai. Dan Kai. Hearing the red demon's words, Ningyu was slightly taken aback at first, then he hurriedly said, Could it be that the array is suppressing an unparalleled expert of the Dan Kai clan? There was a stone tablet in front of the array, and the words Dan Kai were carved on it. Anyone would think that the array was suppressing a Dan Kai. Ning Yu was no exception. He thought so too. According to my observation, 80% of it is a Dan Kai, said the red demon. What do you want Xie Yi for? Do you want Xie Yi to break the array? Ning Yu asked curiously. I want Xie Yi's blood because the stone tablet in front of the array not only has the words Dan Kai carved on it, but there is also a small line of words. The red demon continued, the meaning of the small line of words is easy to understand. Every once in a while, the blood of the Dan Kai clan has to be dripped into the stone tablet. Otherwise, the array will be broken. The Dan Kai are not the same as humans. Humans have blood, but the Dan Kai clan has no blood. Ning Yu's expression was extremely solemn. Unless it is a king of the Dan Kai clan, like Xie Yi, only they can have blood. Something that requires the blood of the Dan Kai clan to suppress must be extremely terrifying. The blood on the stone tablet is already very thin. If we wait any longer, I am afraid that something will go wrong with the array. The red demon did not hide anything from Ning Yu. He said, you can enter the red demon sword and take a look before you make a decision. There is no need. How can I not trust you? Ning Yu waved his hand and grabbed Xie Yi. Ignoring Xie Yi's resistance, he threw Xie Yi into the red demon sword. Oh yes, it is best that you do not use the red demon sword for now. Ever since I opened the space inside the red demon sword, I realized that the red demon sword is evolving towards a higher level. After leaving these words behind, the red devil completely disappeared without a trace. The Dark Emperor is in seclusion, and so is the red demon. Ning Yu shrugged and shrugged, looks like I will be in seclusion too. Huala. Chapter 1561. Falling Out. Looking at Fairy Yun Shi and Xie Ziyi flying towards him, Ning Yu's face was filled with helplessness. The ternary formation could only trap Di Lin for 3 hours. Only an hour had passed, and Fairy Yun Shi and Xie Ziyi had already appeared. It didn't make sense. Originally, Ning Yu thought that Fairy Yun Shi and Xie Ziyi would definitely come at the last moment to negotiate with him. But now, it seemed that he was wrong. Ning Yu, are you planning to use the self-destruction of a Sky Supreme to deal with Di Lin? When Xie Ziyi appeared, he did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. There are 2 difficulties in this matter. Firstly, the self-destruction of a heavenly sovereign is extremely powerful, and even the giant shield city might be affected. So we have to think twice before we act. Second, Di Lin is a peerless expert from God Emperor Palace. If we kill him here, the consequences will be unimaginable. How could Ning Yu not know what Xie Ziyi was talking about? Putting everything aside, he had to analyze Xie Ziyi's 2 problems. Which one of them was a problem? First, although the self-destruction of a Sky Supreme was powerful, Giant Shield City had a peerless killing array. As long as the peerless killing array was activated, Giant Shield City would definitely be safe. As for the second problem, it was a little nonsensical. They're coming to kill you, and you're still being kind and benevolent. Do you have to wait for someone to place a knife on your neck before you come to your senses? Or, will you still smile at them when they chop off your head? Of course, Ning Yu wouldn't tell Xie Ziyi what he was thinking. He crossed his arms in front of his chest. Don't talk nonsense with me. Tell me, what do you want? Ha ha ha, heroes come from the young. Since you've put it this way, I'll get straight to the point. Xie Ziyi laughed awkwardly. He immediately lowered his voice and said, my idea is very simple. I want you to tell me the pill formula for the Jiao pill so that I can have a good understanding of it. You really want the formula for the Jiao pill? Ning Yu sneered in his heart, but he did not show any dissatisfaction on the surface. Instead, Ning Yu said generously, bring me a pen and paper. I'll write the recipe for you now. Whoosh. Xie Ziyi had been waiting for this moment. With a flick of his wrist, a sheepskin scroll flew towards Ning Yu. If I write the pill formula on a sheepskin scroll, it can be kept for a long time. Seeing that Ning Yu had caught the sheepskin scroll, Xie Ziyi continued, as long as you write down the pill formula, I'll make Tuor he explode immediately. Through Fairy Yun Shi, Xiezi already knew what had happened. Xiezi was very confident, especially after seeing Di Lin in the ternary formation. He became even more confident. If Ning Yu wanted to kill Di Lin, he would need a heavenly supreme expert to self-destruct. Since they had a Sky Supreme on their side, Ning Yu had no choice but to beg him. He could take advantage of this opportunity to obtain the cultivation method for the Jiao pill and not be under Ning Yu's control. With the Jiao pill formula, I can find someone else to help me refine the pill and extend my lifespan by another 60 years. Thinking about how he would soon be able to obtain the pill formula for the Jiao pill and extend his lifespan, Xiezi was a little excited. At the same time, a trace of energy appeared on Ning Yu's right fingertip. With a few swishes, he wrote down the pill formula for the Jiao pill on the sheepskin scroll. However, Ning Yu only wrote down the first half of the pill formula. He did not write down the second half. Ning Yu was a person who could distinguish between good and evil. If others helped him, he would definitely repay them. If others wanted to cheat him, then he would smoothly cheat them back. Whoosh! With a flick of his wrist, Ning Yu threw the sheepskin scroll to Xiezi. Xiezi hurriedly looked at the sheepskin scroll. Even Fairy Yun Shi and the palace mistress couldn't help but look at the sheepskin scroll. Damn it! When the three of them saw the three large words on the sheepskin scroll, they cursed at the same time. The first half. The three large words were reflected in their eyes. Xiezi and Fairy Yun Shi's faces were ugly. Especially Xiezi, who was on the verge of exploding. What he wanted was the complete formula for the Jiao Dan, not the first half of it. What are you trying to say? Taking a deep breath, Xiezi said in a solemn voice, I helped you out of goodwill, but not only did you not appreciate it, you even played me. I'm sorry, I didn't play you. Ning Yu shrugged and said, there are a few things that I need to make clear to you. Tuor he wasn't captured by Fairy Yun Shi herself. If it wasn't for me, Grandmaster Xingyun, and Mad Warrior, do you think you could have captured Tuor he alive? Even if you guys helped, it would only be a small matter. It wouldn't be of much use. Xiezedi's face was red, but he still argued. Don't forget that there are still 2 heavenly sovereigns in the Tower of Ascension. Ning Yu's brows raised as he looked at Xiezi, and an evil smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Even though I can't control them completely right now, I can make them explode at any time if I want to. Finishing his words, Ning Yu walked towards the giant shield city without looking back. Ning Yu only took a few steps before he stopped. What? Are you regretting it? If you're regretting it, you can. Seeing that Ning Yu had stopped, Xiezedi's face instantly lit up. Grandmaster Xingyun, what are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and pack up. We'll leave in half an hour. Ning Yu didn't care if Xiezi was proud or not. His reproachful voice resounded, Di Lin is a middle-phase heavenly sovereign. When he breaks through the giant shield city and slaughters everyone, he'll definitely come after us. We have to hurry up and find a place to hide. Rustle. Hearing Ning Yu's voice, Grandmaster Xingyun and the rest instantly understood and flew towards the giant shield city. Ning Yu was right. Staying here would only mean death. If they couldn't find a heavenly sovereign to self-destruct to deal with Di Lin, then they would be no different from fools. What a disappointment. When the Goldfish King passed by Xiezi, it did not forget to ridicule, someone's lifespan is coming to an end. Instead of staying at home to eat and wait for death, he actually came out to mess around. How pitiful, how pitiful. You. Xiezedi's face was ashen. Being ridiculed by a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign in front of so many people, he instantly felt embarrassed and his body trembled from the anger. He initially wanted to teach a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign a lesson, but when he thought about how he only had 3 months left to live, the anger in his heart instantly dissipated. As the saying goes, a dying man's words are kind. Of course, this sentence was nonsense. Everyone knew that if Xiezi heavily injured the Goldfish King, he would definitely have to exhaust his remaining 3 months of lifespan. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.